Six.
No, we can't do that.
Pat itself, pat itself.
Everyone thinks because you're a zombie, you don't know good coffee. Well, they're wrong. There's only one brew that gets my seal of approval. Deadly Grounds coffee is my guilty pleasure. The aroma is so intoxicating. It brings all of my neighbors out of the woodwork. Deadly Grounds coffee. Coffee to die for and zombie approved. It's good to get a little deadly. Use the front door! Oh, they're so disgusting.
The Dorkening and all affiliated shows are not intended for anyone under the age of 18. The following may contain discussions or scenes that have adult situations, graphic violence, nudity, strong sexual content, and graphic language. This show is intended for mature audiences only. Viewer discretion is advised.
Good, bad. I'm the guy with the mic.
Howdy, howdy, howdy.
Hello, hello, hello.
Hey, everybody. Happy Sunday. I hope you're not dying of heat.
Not yet.
Just a little bit every day.
Not dying of heat here.
Hey, Tom Dog.
Just dying of lack of sleep.
Oh, we are in a heat warning advisory thing here in Nebraska. So don't go outside. Stay in with the air conditioning on. It's good for you.
They had some bad storm go through the South Dayton area a little bit ago, so I'm sure some people lost some power there, but I'm up here and we didn't get affected by that. In fact, after getting back from the concert, I made sure I got a nap in, and the storm went through, and I didn't even realize it went through.
That's a good way to get through a storm. I like
I
sleeping.
was riding when the storm went through, so I didn't really notice it.
You were riding?
Writing.
Oh, writing. I thought you said riding. I was
did
going to
say
say
riding.
was the horse. I thought you meant like riding in a car or something.
Riding with a soft D. Wink, wink, nudge, nudge.
Well, you ever heard
So,
that song
Twitter-
years ago that said Ryder riding on Fred riding Fred?
Yes, I've heard the song.
Okay.
I believe we actually discussed that before. Is what prompted me to look it up.
Oh,
A flooded basement.
That's no fun,
oh that's
Jody.
not good.
Yeah,
No.
watch out for all
No.
the dead bodies floating up.
I'll keep
So
all your.
Twitter has
Buddy,
decided we cannot go live anymore without a premium subscription.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Wow.
I just found this out today. It just wasn't stated like today or yesterday.
Oh, well, that's nice of them. Yeah, I had us up in 2 different Twitters, and apparently neither one of them are supported. I don't know why they let me link them if they weren't going to go through.
I
Thanks,
don't know.
X.
Uh,
I guess we'll see you some other time then, because I don't know. I don't think we need a blue check mark. Just one of my things. I don't know.
Oh, give me 1 second. I'll be right.
Jody agrees.
Scary
Definitely some
shit,
scary
dream
shit.
type work. So definitely not a pleasant flooding if you get my drift. Drift, water, haha.
Driftwood?
Considering
I had
where
a
the pipes
basement.
broke, no.
I lived in a place in Hooper at one point that had a dirt basement where like the electric box was and stuff. And it wasn't the full size of the house, but you had to walk down wooden steps to get into it. And there were like spider webs everywhere and stuff. We just didn't use it. But it was raining so bad once that it was like up to almost my waist. But we had to go down there because we had to shut off the power because we didn't want the breaker to be flooded because we weren't sure. We just assumed that would be a bad thing to have all of the electrical stuff at once get covered with water. And
Oh,
I
yeah,
don't
that
know if that's something, but I'm pretty sure that would be bad. So
Yeah,
I had to
that-
go
that's-
swimming basically.
Oh,
And that was muddy swimming through spider webs. So I do not recommend, by the way, if you don't want to. Also, had some really bad flooding one year when I lived on the farm or the acreage, and it was called the bottom, and it was down at the bottom of the bluff that we had a path cut down through, so you didn't have to go straight down. And the river had flooded up like we had 60 acres and it was spread out, but it was like all the way up to the bluff. And so we were fishing, but weren't really catching anything because it was going through like the neighbors' fields and where all the cows. We just had a bunch of trees and stuff down there. But I thought I might have a good time going swimming. And did you know? I knew this, but I didn't think that there would be so many of them. Ants can swim. And I learned that watching that terrifying movie about the ants in the hotel that they were trying to build back when I was a kid. And they're like, oh, we'll just build a moat around it. And it's like, oh, the ants can swim. But I had like a branch that brushed into me that was covered with like a swarm of ants. And I can't stand them. And I got covered with ants. And I was like flailing and, just about drowning myself in a rushing flooded river because I was getting covered with ants that never attacked me when I was in the river when it was in its banks, of course, but it apparently scooped up a couple of colonies and they were all trying to save themselves. And I apparently seemed like a good Noah's Ark for them or something. So don't go swimming in floodwaters, folks, because I was an idiot. Beyond all the rest of the things that could have gone bad from swimming in floodwaters,
I was too.
like.
That sounds like great nightmare fuel. You should write it into a horror story.
Oh, I might at some point. I don't know. I'll have to do something with the creepy crawlies. I was smart enough that my stepdad was down there to make sure nothing happened. He was like trying to gauge how everything was going so I didn't drown. But yes, don't go swimming in floodwater. It makes sense unless you're a kid and then you're like, oh, this would be fun. No, it's not. It's not at all.
I did it on a mountain as a kid.
Wow.
I will tell you.
Look back and I'm like, that probably wasn't the best idea.
I will tell you something. When you got enough water, what you can do. My buddy just says hi, and yes, I did Survive's Country Concert, and it's actually funny because they will take plastic and put it down this giant hill, and I mean it's about 200 feet of plastic, and when it rains, they will just use that as a giant slip and slide. But
okay.
Yeah, I always thought it was funny because there's so many places at that concert that actually floods, and you get about 2.5 inches of water in a short period of time, and you can actually see some of the campers floating away. It's
Wow.
not the best thing in the world, but Mother Nature wasn't nice. But yeah, as you guys are talking about flooding, I was just thinking, it's what happened on Tuesday night. Everything started flooding, 2.5 inches of rain. A camper moved. A couple of tents were washed away, so they had to go and get new supplies.
Oh. None of this is good.
No.
I remember watching my dad lived in town, and it was a pretty nice area, but the streets were like, you didn't notice until it flooded how the angle of the yards and stuff went down to the street. And so like it flooded and there were people like out using their jet ski in the street.
Ooh.
And like pulling people along, and it was just like, how deep does it have to be before you drag the bottom of that and just completely ruin it on the street? Because I mean, it was like halfway up their yard, but it's still like that's not going to stay that way for long, because I mean, city drainage needs to catch up, but there are gutters on those streets, it's not going to keep it going. But everybody does stupid things when it floods. We got an extremely uncomfortable infection after a hurricane and swim through floodwaters to get out. Okay, well, yeah. That was you had to kind of do that to make sure that your kids survived. But yeah.
Right.
And they used to use John boats to rescue people. I don't know what a John boat is.
John boat's like a little. It's not like a really big motorized boat. I mean, it's a small boat. You can use oars on it, or it's got a motor that you can attach on the back of it. I mean, it's a simple boat. It's not like a bass boat or anything. Usually John boats are like 2 people type boats.
Okay.
You use them.
Cool.
Use them in floods, or they're really lightweight, so you can actually pick them up and move them around really quick. Small motors. I mean, what is it? Mixture of gas and oil, usually in some of them motors.
Okay. My nephew, I think last Christmas, got an inflatable boat with a little motor thing that they could put in. And so he and his friend, of course, hiked it down to the closest lake that they already had part of it marked off for ice skating on and like playing hockey, and just hauled it out to past where the ice started breaking up so that they could take the goddamn thing out boating in the middle of the winter, just because they had to use it. Like, he had it and it was inflated in his bedroom the first night and then snuck out, and then they had to call to get a ride back, because after spending a couple of hours out in the middle of a freaking blizzard on the stupid pond in the ice water, it was like, yeah, we're cold. Can you come get us? Oh, and bring the truck because we took the boat.
Yeah. Fire departments use those a lot.
It was his fishing boat, but they couldn't wait until thaw to go use it, so they had to go find whatever part of the lake still had some water available in it so that they could move around.
I'm not going to say I have never bought in something and said, you know what, I'm going to find a use for it right now just to justify I have it right now. But I don't think that a inflatable boat on icy water seems to be such a great idea. I mean, I can wait. I mean,
right?
What if you don't know much about your boat, that might not be the best conditions for you to be out in the water very much, Not judging, just saying.
Yeah. Oh, night, Jody. Have
Good
fun.
night.
Yeah. could use some more rain around here. We've been getting quite a bit, but it's so hot that we could use more, I think. Although I've got, in case you guys see me doing this a lot, I'm not just waving. Somehow overnight, I developed an infestation of fruit flies right here by my bevs. They weren't there like last night. And there was nothing there, and there was nothing spilled. It's just welcome to Nebraska in summer. It's fruit fly season today. So I have a little trap going for them, but if you see me whacking at something, it's because I don't want a fruit fly to get in my face. So, yeah. So what have you guys been up to? I've been like sitting around kind of trying to get everything ready for Terrificon and catch up on sleep and go out with mom a little bit and get some writing done.
The usual.
Either you guys doing anything?
Go
We
ahead, Friday.
survived Burl.
What was
The
that?
usual. We survived Burl. And then I told
Good job.
people they should read your stuff.
I appreciate that.
And you, as in both of you.
Thank you.
And
Thank
did they
you.
read it?
Some did. I know at least 3 people did for both of you.
Awesome. I hope you enjoyed what you read, folks. We try. We write.
I've had people buy the book. I know that for a fact. And I've signed a few issues and sent them out. And so far as yet, I've had very little feedback on whether or not, one, they've actually read it, or two, if they actually liked it. And I'm not sure if that's a good thing.
I will tell you that is one of the things that I did. This week was I read your book, and I quite enjoyed it. And I will get a review posted up sometime, which is my review things are like I wait up for a while and then I just go through and review a bunch of books at once, which is maybe not the best thing to do, but I have to be able to get in that mood to like review everything. So, but I think you wrote a very good book, and I enjoyed all of the stories in it.
So you read the whole thing?
Collectively, we agree.
Yes.
All right. Well,
Oh
I'll
yes,
take
when I
that.
start something, I can't. I don't stop. I just like read the whole thing. So, yeah, I like it. I think you guys should like it too. You should go out and buy it. You can see behind him where to get it.
I agree.
You will be highly entertained. Hey, Stefan. Sorry that we were going to have Stefan was going to hop on with us tonight, and StreamYard is not supporting his browser, so we cannot get him on here with us. We will try to figure that out sometime soon. Just can't do it right now. But yeah. Sorry for all the dead air, folks. We're just like, hi, we're here. We're exhausted. It's hot.
I've been horribly procrastinating everything lately. I sort of got into a routine of binge watching a bunch of shows. I started watching White Collar, and I finally finished that one on Netflix. And I started with Archer, which is a show I've started many times before, and I still have yet to finish the whole series. And I moved to White Collar, and then because of the recommendation of all of you guys in the chat, I started watching Castle, and I love the show. It's great. It's very inspiring for writers and what makes good dialogue and plot points and all of that. But because I've been binge watching so many shows, and then of course watching Sleepaway Camp for tomorrow night, I haven't really done much of anything else that I know that I should be doing, like working out, lifting weights, practicing karate, doing my own writing, cleaning my apartment, doing the dishes, doing laundry, that kind of thing. It's all sort of gone by the wayside. And people keep saying, that's okay. Give yourself some downtime. You'll get back to it when you're ready. It's like the problem's farther away I get from it, the less I feel ready to go back to it. And just so it's just this
Yeah.
perpetuating spiral of lethargy that keeping me from doing the things I know I should be doing. But today I wanted to go work out, but I wanted to watch Castle too. And then I was sitting there and I had all this pent up energy. I was kind of amped. So I was like, I got to get up. I got to do something. And I don't normally talk to myself out loud. So it's really bad when I start talking to myself out loud, trying to motivate myself to actually do something like, come on, Ron. Come on, Ron. You got to do something. You got to get up. You got to, put this energy towards something. So I did get up. I went downstairs to try to work out, and I'm just sitting down there, spinning my wheels, going through the motions, not actually doing anything. I'm like, well, if I'm not going to work out, I need to do something else. And of course, when I work out is when I actually brainstorm my story a lot, because I can focus my energy. I can focus my attention on the story and think about problem areas that I'm having with it, or where I want to go next, what I want to do with it. And today was no different. But the problem is that sometimes I'll get to that point where, like, I'm trying to work out and I focus so much attention. I was like, okay, now I feel the urge to write. I got to go write this down. I got to go write this down. And then, I don't work out because I feel like I need to go write. And this is where it helps to have an outside gym membership, because if I'm at the gym, then I will work out. Having a gym in my basement makes it that much harder because it's so easy to get distracted. So I'm like, okay, I'm gonna go write. So I came upstairs and I finally got through a scene that I've been putting off for a while because it's kind of a problem scene on how I wanted to resolve it and what I wanted to do with it. But I finally got through it. But it's shorter than I want it to be. There needs to be more to it. I don't think that it's final form yet. So I have to go back and read it and figure out where I can improve it. But I did add another 2,000 plus words to the novel, which I'm happy about, because at least it means that I did something.
Nice.
This, I feel like it'll be one of the last major scenes before I start wrapping up the book, wrapping up the story. There's a couple more things that I have to get past that I want to do, but I think it'll be a lot of exposition from this point on. And that kind of bothers me a little bit, because I don't want to get like halfway through the book and then nothing happens, So I feel like after all of the excitement of everything, then the last half of the book is not as exciting as the first half. And I'm trying to figure out, how can I combat that? What can I do that will kind of balance that out? So there's something big that has to happen in the second half of the book, so people will stay engaged with reading it. And I'm not quite sure.
Glenn Danzig moves in next door and starts coming over and asking them for various things from their cupboards.
Glenn Danzig is probably already dead at this point.
Oh. Well, then undead Glenn Danzig comes over and starts asking people for various things from their cupboards.
I can
That
probably
is
work
somehow
with
more
that.
disturbing with his plot line. That is more disturbing.
I don't know
I
exactly what your book's about, so I'm just like, if I want something exciting, Glenn Danzig shows up. He showed up in my mind palace spontaneously without me trying to put him there to encourage me in my beat the shit out of things room.
I can probably work with that, or at least to write something in similar to that, just as an homage to what you said. So if you read it, you'll know it.
Excuse
An
me,
inside
can I
joke
get
for
an
us.
extra cup of blood? I'm just a bit short.
It'll be
He happened to
Ozzy
have an
Osbourne
E-bone
looking for
meal.
bat heads.
So I just jumped in this, and earlier you guys were saying, well, I think that person's already dead. Did you guys hear that Richard Simmons passed away yesterday?
Yes.
Yeah. There's been a couple, Shelley Duvall and Michael Zulli as well. And it's kind of like
Shannon
oh.
Doherty.
Oh yeah, yeah, they just posted that up today too. It's a rough time. It's been a bad week for celebrities.
Yeah.
Please wrap yours in bubble wrap and put them on a shelf. Then let Dave Grohl babysit them. He will keep them entertained and very happy.
Well, we were talking about Betty White because I got my Betty White shirt on. Yep, love my Betty White shirt. When she passed, everybody started sending me candles. They're a picture of Betty White, and it's got like a little different thing on it. And I started thinking about it. I was like, oh, okay. So I got 2 Betty White candles. Now, if I ever wanted to think of my favorite celebrity, I can light her candle.
Aw, that's cool.
I just seriously just flicked water at myself.
Oddly enough, coincidentally enough, I've been watching. I go over to YouTube and there's like a whole Golden Girls shorts that, for some reason, keep popping up, and they're all mostly Betty White doing her best Betty White. You know, like playing her character to the max, and they're like talking about like even the parts where like she messes up a line or something and it goes it just spirals out of control. She's still completely Rose in character, and just like, oh, you know, I do adore her. She was fun.
When she was doing that when she was doing the one show, and I can't remember, it wasn't the Golden Girls, it was something else. She was taking a little time to practice everything, and one of the guys had to play this part because the one girl that was in the show who she was talking to, she wasn't able to be there because she was at school. So as soon as they went ahead and they were going to tape it, she was going to be there. But so here's the guy that's in charge of some of the backstage stuff, and Betty White is just doing her doing this guy's makeup, you know, just talking to him. And it was funny because she just took a little powder and boom, bashed him in the face, and he just was trying to not laugh or anything. And as they were practicing, everybody's just losing it. And Betty's like, "Oh, was that a little too much?" But that was Betty White. I mean, I loved her in Placid Lake. When her favorite
Lake
quote right
Placid.
there, yep, Lake Placid, and there's my dyslexic kicking in. But I loved her
I
when she
noticed.
said, "I hope the alligators get your friends."
There's you're mentioning the one show. I don't know if Tom Dog brought up Hot in Cleveland. I'm not sure if
Oh,
that's
yeah.
the one you were going
Oh,
for or
yeah.
not.
No,
But,
that was not the show,
but I haven't seen it. But my mom, we're big fans of the cooking channel, and when Stefan had said hi to everybody else, but you were gone. So hi.
Oh, hi, Stefan. Sorry.
But and especially Papa was a big fan of the cooking channel as well. So when I was staying with them, taking care of them, I did a lot of cooking channel watching. And Valerie Bertinelli, who is also in Hot in Cleveland with Betty White, would have the cast come on a lot. And so she'd get Betty onto her show like it almost seemed like it was like once a month or so, sometimes it was repeats or something. But she'd have Betty come on and they'd all just be sitting there. And she had some of the filthiest mouth stuff going. Like, I mean, it was like she didn't swear, but the implications that were made, the little I didn't know you were in his pants that far. Just weird little things, that would be like that she could get away with on regular cable TV.
Oh yeah,
It was great.
she
She's just
she
a
knew where
hoot.
that line was. And
Yeah,
I will tell
and
you,
she tiptoed it ever so gracefully.
if you want to listen to something really hilarious with Betty White in it, she actually did a song with I think a British singer, and it's called "I'm Still Hot," and it's hilarious because she makes reference about her beefcakes, which were the guys that walked around her house that would do all her housework, and her cheesecake. Everybody always knew Betty White made wonderful cheesecake. Anybody that's ever worked with Betty White loved her cheesecake, and she would always talk about the beefcakes walking around. And one of the requirements was that they walked around shirtless constantly. And she was on this show that was a comedian or a joking show that senior citizens would play the jokes on newer people. When she was on that show, multiple times the beefcakes would be in that shot coming up and serving her. And I just thought that was funny because, she had a great life and she had so much money. She cared about the Los Angeles Zoo. She donated so much time and money to the Los Angeles Zoo. When they opened the Heart of Africa here in Ohio at the Columbus Zoo, she was actually there. And if I would have known that, I would have bought tickets, called off work, and went, because I never got to see her actually in person. But that would have been like one of the top tier people for me to actually be able to see. Ryan Reynolds would be another one. He's still around. I might have a chance in my life. Don't guarantee it because,
But he's just very random. You never know. I mean, he's not quite Bill Murray random, but you never know when Ryan Reynolds is just going to show up and do something,
Right.
Sorry. I was going to comment about when you're talking about cheesecake and the beefcakes. Do you guys I think I know Ron would probably be about old enough with me, but back when they had what was it? I think it was the Newlywed Game that they would have people on, and like every episode they ask you questions and it was like you had to guess what your spouse would say. And every show, one of them was, which is better, the wife's cheesecake or the husband's beefcake? And I was little and I had no idea what that meant. I knew what a cheesecake was because my mom made awesome cheesecake in a springform pan, like baked and everything, and none of that Jell-O instant shit for her. But for some reason, I was very confused. And I was like, okay, so beefcake must be something that only men can make. Like, why couldn't a woman make a beefcake? Like, I know men should be able to bake cheesecake. Is this a specific thing that I'm not understanding? And it wasn't until, a couple of years ago that, because it left my mind then and it finally came back up and I was like, oh, that's what they were asking on live television. They just couldn't say, it was an allusion to things. So I felt like a complete idiot because it's one of those things like one of those, what are they, the Kevin moments where it's like cats are girls and dogs are boys. No, they aren't. That's not the way it works. But yeah. I was convinced that there was something called a beefcake that only men could make, and I was assuming it was like a pot pie, only a cake.
We also had the euphemism tube steak.
I have never heard that before. I'm learning new things. Wait, was that a regional thing or was that a national thing? Was it?
To be honest, I couldn't tell you because I mean, I guess it probably circulated around my high school, but we used it a lot in the early days of the internet on IRC.
Okay.
So I'm not sure
Yeah,
where it
that's
originated from, but I mean, it was a fairly well-known euphemism at the time.
okay. I was highly oblivious to most sexual innuendos until I started working in a bar. And then like I started catching all of them and it was like, oh. Stefan says
Yeah,
that he used it too. So
I had a sheltered childhood for certain things, but sex was. Wow, that sounds really bad the way I was about to say it in my head.
didn't have sexual experience in my childhood, just didn't know about it.
No, I mean, I was aware of sex before, you know, that talk of the birds and the bees, because I was privileged enough to have a satellite dish when satellite dishes were just coming onto the market, and back before all of the pay channels were scrambled and behind a paywall, and things were just available if you knew where to look. And I mean, I'm fairly certain my parents probably knew what was up, but nobody ever said anything and nobody ever stopped me from watching it. So let's just say that I was educated probably in not the best ways in terms of certain topics.
So you learned about things on Cinemax.
Worse than Cinemax.
Oh,
This one you could probably look up, but back in the early 80s, there was a hardcore prawn channel called American Triple Ecstasy.
never heard of that.
Look it up. It
I-
existed.
Well, I don't have a search history on this laptop that has anything to do with things like that. So I'd really rather not, given the way the AI grabs things now and is just like, oh, you're interested in that? Here's everything.
Well,
and like,
I'm trying to be diplomatic and discreet and how I'm phrasing things right now, so we don't get booted off of streaming.
yeah. Well, what I had growing up, like, okay, I got bumped ahead in elementary school into first grade. And then when it came around the time for them to have the talk with everyone, the school sponsored talk that your parents could come to, even though like my mother was a nurse and I would have been allowed, they were like, we think she's too young because she's a year behind everybody to actually come to the talk. So we can't let her come. So it was like, okay. So mom got the lowdown from everything that was there from one of our friends who she and her mom went and was like, this is all the stuff they explained and this is what was done. But they also never then they never were going to, like, when the next year's one came up, they didn't let me like retroactively go to it because I was the right age, because my mom was a nurse and was like, I explained everything to her. But she didn't explain everything. In fact, I remember one of the talks that we had was she was describing the talk that she got from her father, which was, you know, Mary up on the hill? Yeah. You know she's pregnant? Yeah. You know how that happened? Yeah. Don't let it happen to you. Okay. that was pretty much it. Sex was taboo when I grew up. I even got grounded for 2 weeks when I was caught stroking. Okay.
Stroking the tube steak in my room.
Tom grew up watching Dr. Ruth whenever she was on TV, so I would pass sex ed whenever I had to take it in school, thanks to Dr. Ruth. She will be missed but never forgotten. I did watch some Dr. Ruth.
I mean, I don't know how they handle sex education in schools these days, but I grew up in that
Poorly.
era where they had the cheesy videos and the one person that had to come in and give you the talk in front of the whole class. And this was at a time where they did not segregate the boys from the girls. The talk was given to everybody equally. I mean, all at the same time, and we all had to watch the same videos. And it's awkward to say the least. It's and we just nobody really talked about it, but because we all wanted to pretend like we all already knew everything about it, even if we didn't, but nobody would ever fess up to that. And this even went on into my freshman year in high school. Fortunately, that was the last time we ever had a sex ed class, because by that time we're all 14, and most people are probably experimenting in high school anyway. They want to get it out of the way. But
Just get that
then
done with.
it wasn't so much about this is the birds and the bees and blah 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 blah. Then it was actually more about the biology of the thing, and going into the whole reproductive system, and this is what happens, and this is the science behind it, and blah blah blah. So it was handled in, I think, more of a general education kind of way, rather than, oh, you're growing adults, and you have to be careful, and use protection and all that kind of mess. So I'm so glad that I'm past that point in my life. But there are a lot of things that those sex ed classes don't cover that you kind of wish they did.
Yeah.
And most of that is, dealing with your own awkwardness in certain situations. Because, as an adult, it's easy to realize that we all had those same kind of experiences, even though nobody was talking about them at the time. Let's say, for example, a woman hitting that time of the month, and then spotting at inappropriate times,
Mm-hmm.
And it becoming apparent through clothing, and then you have to
There are
approach
people
the parents
who,
about
yeah.
getting pads and stuff. For boys, it's becoming aroused at inappropriate times in class, and then getting called up to the chalkboard, or having to excuse yourself to go to the bathroom.
Yeah.
What do you do? How do you handle it? What are you supposed to do? Nobody tells you that kind of stuff. You just kind of have to learn it on your own. And of
We
course, you can't let anybody find out that you're in that situation, because they will target you. Even though
got
they're suffering the same damn kind of things themselves, Why the hell are we talking about this? Weird pat itself.
because
Shut up, Ron.
we got some. I mean, why not? Stefan, but at my birthday party in 8th grade, spin the bottle was encouraged as a game. So kiss, but don't do anything that came up after that.
Never played spin the
I got
bottle.
your reverence. I did once as an adult. It was very strange. We were partying with the philosophy students that were friends of one of my bartender friends where I worked, and we all went over to their house, and it was just like I ended up there was some guy playing guitar, and they're all philosophy guys and stuff, and somebody had broken a glass, and I had to go over to kiss somebody over there. It wasn't making out kissing. It was just I don't know why. I still don't remember because drunk, but somebody had broken a glass, and I ended up on my knees crawling across the floor because I didn't want to stand up because, I was tipsy. And so I was like, wow, I just had to crawl across broken glass to kiss a guy named Guy. And the guy who was playing the guitar was like, I'm going to write a song about that, man. And I was like, what are you drinking? It sounds like you're smoking something.
Everybody in the club getting tipsy. That's probably where that song came from.
I don't know.
Walking on broken glass.
Tom, I really want to put your quote up, but I'm not sure if it's appropriate or not because I don't know what that means. So Tom would really like to hear Dr. Ruth one more time to hear about a specific topic, and I don't know what it is. Yeah, that was one of the things when we did it. It was, I guess, separate for boys and girls, but that was when it was the elementary school thing. So the girls got to learn all about their periods and stuff, and the boy. I remember the day going into school that day. We went to the Mines drugstore where we'd go sometimes to get breakfast, and you'd get they had these great eclairs, and we were sitting around, and the women would be doing coffee and everything, you know, and the kids would be waiting to get to school. And one of the scandalized parents was talking about how one of the male students, who I will not embarrass on this show, but he was known for kind of pushing the envelope with the teachers a little bit, she heard that he had planned out ahead of time that he was going to ask how many calories were burned doing each different type of act that he knew the name of. And he had a list written down and stuff. And we were just like, and the parents were all like, oh my God. And we're just like, what are they called? What does that mean? I don't understand. They're like, you're too little. That's why you aren't going.
That was
Okay.
before the advent of the Urban Dictionary.
It was before everything. It was before the internet existed. And like, we're talking 81, 82, something like that. Maybe a little bit further than that. But
Right.
yeah. And I knew nothing. But yeah, and then they were like, I don't
Tom,
know.
I imagine that Dr. Ruth would handle the Hawk to a Girl situation with the same class and educational expertise that she handled everything else.
Well, Tom, not everything that you talk about on Channel X is appropriate for Padded Cell, even though we're drifted way, way out of here.
Well, thank God we have the disclaimer for 18 plus.
Yes.
I mean,
well,
we still try to be diplomatic and not go completely off the rails. But he's referring to the video that went viral recently of the girl being interviewed about what her finishing move would be. And she says sometimes you got to hot tua spit on that thing.
Oh, okay. That's okay. Yeah, I do know some about what they teach in current sex ed classes, and they're bad. They're very, very, very bad. I know that one of the kiddos' classes when they were in high school had somebody, they were explaining, it was called a relationship class, but it was supposed to encompass the sex ed parts of things as well. And there was a girl in the class who had already had a child, and they were going through and discussing different things. And the girl who oh, night, Mikey. The girl who already had a child still believed that you could get pregnant from oral. That was that was something that happened. And the instructor was also talking about just very bad things. I was asked about kids suddenly got very scared of even kissing each other because it was explained in a not in-depth way that the way that you end up getting an STD is by exchanging bodily fluids. They didn't tell them that somebody first had to have the disease and which bodily fluids generally encouraged the transfer of said disease. But these kids thought that if you kissed somebody on the mouth, like if you had an open mouth kiss with somebody, you could just poof, gonorrhea happens because they were exchanging bodily fluids. And like that was something that the teacher did not explain properly to them. So it was just like, yeah, you can just, so we have this inside joke where it's just poof, gonorrhea, because they thought that could happen from two uninfected people making out.
You're not
Boy, I
wrong.
walked
I
into
remember those
conversation
days.
just perfectly at the perfect time.
Poof, gonorrhea. There's Pyle.
In the
No kin there.
in the early days of the AIDS pandemic, when not a lot of information was known about AIDS, that was actually a really big concern for a lot of us kids in that day and age when they were trying to teach sex ed. We didn't know. They didn't know enough about AIDS to know exactly how it was spread, how it was transmitted at the time. So that was actually a big fear.
Yeah, I still remember too that, and this was horrible, people would use it as an insult. Like, you'd just be like, oh, you got AIDS. And it was like, how horrible of a human are you that you would take a disease that kills people and start using it as a way to label somebody who doesn't have it as an insult?
Well, there was a lot
And
more
it's not like you walk
homophobia
around
going
saying
on back
like,
then than there is now. So
yeah, I mean, it's not like you walk up to somebody and say like, hey, you got tuberculosis.
you have the consumption.
that
was kind of like when you're a little kid. Ew, you got cooties. Well, cooties ain't a thing. So, when you're looking at somebody and saying, ooh, you got AIDS, it's like, what the hell? I mean, when we were younger, we didn't say that thing. We just told each other that we had rabies.
We had cootie spray. I was never a cootie person, but yeah, I was never a cootie person, but you'd stand in line and somebody would be like, oh, so-and-so gave you cooties. And somebody else would be like, oh, it's okay. I got cootie spray. You don't have any cooties anymore. It's like, well, why not spray the person who had cooties to begin with so that they don't spread them anymore? Huh? I mean, it's all invisible.
Diary of a Wimpy Kid. You touched the cheese.
Never read it.
I'm kind of scared of this now. I don't know.
You never watched that?
Nope.
So in Diary of a Wimpy Kid, there is a piece of cheese that has been on the ground. And if you touch the cheese, you get cheese finger. And every kid fears the cheese finger. So when they made this from a book to a cartoon and then to a movie, it always made reference to the cheese finger. Because you touched the cheese and everybody would be away from you because you had the cheese finger.
Okay.
Yeah, it's not a thing I'm familiar with. My knowledge goes more to Clerks with the chocolate covered pretzels and the passing of the diphtheria.
My brain went to Ghostbusters with "Don't cross the streams, don't touch the cheese" kind of things. Touch the cheese.
Every time I see a Twinkie, I think of Egon holding the Twinkie.
Oh,
we have
that's
a deer.
It's a big Twinkie.
That's a big thing that gets passed around on Ghostbusters Day. Drew, who is potentially going to join us at some point, Ghostbuster Man 1984 on Instagram, if you guys would like to follow Drew Mallow, is a huge Ghostbuster fan, and he has like the whole kit and caboodle, like, walking around with the backpack and proton packs and all the things. And they go there and they hand out, is it Crunch Bars, I think, and Twinkies to various people, because those are things that are respected. They made sure they get, I think it's Nestle Crunch Bars, I'm not sure, but like they even had a Ghostbuster themed wedding this past year, and like they were giving the bride and groom some of the Ghostbuster snacks that they bring with them.
That probably killed their business when they took Twinkies off the market that one time.
You know who else likes Twinkies?
Who?
Me?
From Zombieland.
Oh yeah, Woody Harrelson.
I can't remember his character's name, but
Tallahassee.
Yeah. He goes, yep, Tallahassee. He goes, snowballs, snowballs. Where's all the dang Twinkies? I want you to know, Twinkies do have an expiration date. You eat them way after that expiration date too. I know that.
I'm a fan of zingers over Twinkies, to be honest. I like the little,
Me
I like
too.
the frosting on top.
Ooh.
Adds a little, it changes it. You don't just have a soft texture. You have that little,
Yeah.
like, not quite fondant unless they're really old, but gives you better mouthfeel. That's what we were talking about the other night.
She said a mouthfeel. Yes. Dell, congratulations. That just every time I hear somebody say something about it's just got a better mouthfeel to it. I heard that as a little kid. I'm like, huh? But yeah,
I totally missed when he said it. And I was trying to figure out what the hell you guys were talking about through that entire episode. And then I finally figured it out. And I'm like, oh, so he really wasn't trying to prompt something odd. It was the crunch of the, yeah, okay. Textures, mouthfeel. Got it.
There you go. There you go. Some people won't eat things because the texture is just a little off.
It's like a party in my mouth.
So when people don't want to say texture because people are like, oh, okay. You say mouthfeel on things, and it's just like sometimes people are like, yeah, okay, I understand that. I was like, that's even stupider than texture.
Well, I
I
don't know.
think
It's
you
just
can
like a question
incorporate.
you can't ask. How that
I
mouth
think you
feel?
incorporate. I think you can add more things to a mouthfeel though. Like, if you're eating like a York peppermint patty, you get that coolness, that it is a different kind of. It's not a texture mouthfeel. It's a wow. My whole mouth feels like it snowed. That's cool.
So earlier I was mentioning country concert, and
Okay.
you have so many random people that are at this country concert. Yeah, they're listening to country music. That might be the only thing that everybody's got in common. You're listening to a concert that has country music. Everybody's totally different, and I got to give props, and you guys will love this so much. There was a group of people that sat at the top of this hill to watch the drunks go up the hill, and they were so supportive of these drunks, telling them, you can do it, come on, a little more, you got it. And I just thought to myself, okay. And they were eating old snacks up there, and they were telling them, congratulations, you made it to the top. Here's a candy bar, here's some pretzels. Whatever they had, they were handing out to people. Just absolutely, here, congratulations, you made it up the hill. Here's your support token. So we were like going through this, and I was just thinking of all the wonderful people that were supportive, but about 1:30 in the morning, the supportive people, I had to tell, dude, you need to just calm down. And people are trying to sleep, and they're like, but we're being supportive. I understand. I said, so, and they said, okay. So the next night, they knew I was going to come back and tell them, hey, you need to calm down a little bit. So they actually had poster boards that as soon as I rolled up, they were holding poster boards that says, you can do it. Yay, you made it. Here, have a support token. So
that might sound like support, but it sounds more like backhanded, because that sounds more like patronization than anything.
Well, I mean,
Here, have a cookie.
You guys, when you're totally, absolutely drunk, moving anywhere is such a amazing feat to some people when you're that drunk. To get up a hill that is about a 3-story hill, it's amazing. So these guys are just absolutely encouraging these drunks to keep on going. I mean, at some point, the guy was like, here's something greasy to get that alcohol out of your system a little better. I mean, I thought they were really nice supporting them. It's not like, here, have a Swiss cake roll. I know you're a bigger guy and that was a challenge for you. No, this was just, I'm way too drunk and I don't know where I'm going, but I'm going up this hill and I think I'm going to make it. And if somebody starts staggering, they would get up, they would walk down that hill, and they would help support them and grab their arm and say, come on, we can do this together. We can do this together. So I thought it was so interesting. And I told them, I said, how long have you guys been doing this? And they said, 5 years.
Wow.
I have never caught you doing this in 5 years.
Maybe that
And
is
they're
actually
like,
being supportive that they've been doing it that long. It takes kind of some of the patronization out of it.
He said, yeah, we've been doing it for 5 years. Ever since this part got built that you go up this way, we've been sitting here at our campsites just watching these people, and we go out and buy a whole bunch of little snack bags that it's like, here, have a bottle of water, here, have a bag of pretzels. Congratulations, you made it up the biggest hill that you're going to go up at this concert. And it is the biggest hill. I mean, it's a pretty long, steep hill, but
congratulations, you made it to the top. Let's have a beer to celebrate.
Yeah. I asked him, I said, you guys give them beers? And he's like, oh, no. If they're that drunk that we have to cheer them on, they need to drink a little more water and sober up a little bit, because they're going to the other side of the campgrounds. And that is another half a mile to 3/4 of a mile back to their campsite.
I got very drunk on my birthday, and I haven't been that drunk in a while. And it was to the point that I do not remember how I got home, to be honest with you. So my cousin came and picked me up, and it was almost noon. And then next thing I know, 12 hours has gone by, and I'm like, what the hell happened? I mean, I started drinking, and that was it. I don't know what the hell was going on. But, I mean, he called me an Uber to take me home, but I don't recall anything after that until the Uber was pulling up to my apartment.
I know that there was a gentleman that I talked to on a Wednesday, and I seen him packing up on a Sunday. And I said, did you have a good time? He goes, I remember coming in on Wednesday.
I remember nothing.
He didn't recall a single thing. He didn't recall anything. You spent this much money and you can't even remember who in the heck was singing. He goes, I can't even tell you if I went over to go see the concert. I was like, oh my.
I went to a bluegrass festival once with some friends, and we got to see some great, like Bela Fleck was there, and there was some great green grass stuff going on. And yeah, Sam Neill was playing with Bela Fleck, and he almost knocked himself out with his guitar because he gets so rowdy and playing everything around. And I think I got his name right. But anyway, I went with the brewer and the baker from the brew pub that I worked at. And they get like as many jugs filled for free as they wanted, like the growlers. So we had like a trunk full of beer, and we were just drinking growler after growler after growler. Like, act over, go over, slam down one, go back. I did not go to the bathroom the entire time because it was the middle of summer, and I sweat out all of the beer that I drank. I was wearing this like dress that I had borrowed from somebody. It was a tie-dyed dress that was really kind of cool. And I was sunburned totally. You could see my cleavage sunburn because of the way that the dress sat. But when I took that thing off after I got home that night, and then like, just take it off, throw it down, go to bed. When I woke up the next day, the salt had hardened in the dress because I sweat that much that it actually held the shape on the part that was around my body to being this. It was like it was starched or something. I'm
I'm
sorry.
not sure if
You
that's a
telling
good
about?
thing.
No, I was dehydrated as fuck, but it was a good show. I mean, like Bela Fleck is amazing. You know, Victor Wooten. You're just like, what the fuck?
I do
You
want to
just need-
say everybody that I talked to at this music festival that they do every single year. I had plenty of business cards for how about Allight Network? I'm still tired from the whole thing. And they were really awesome talking to me. Took the cards, start looking up stuff, and I'm hoping one of these people actually get to watch the podcast and actually understand that I'm not joking when I said, hey, I would say thank you guys for being so really nice to us this year. And if you see us at festivals or conventions or something like that, I have no problem you guys coming up and saying hi to me and talking to me. I don't think anybody in this room has any problems with people coming up and just talking to us. We're not like the big celebrities that, you know, you just absolutely can't wait to get away from people. But yeah, I really had a wonderful time returning back to this music festival. And I know I got one more music festival to attend to this year. It is next month, and it is going to be at Legend Valley. So we'll be more than happy to meet and greet people, because I know some of the people at this concert will be going to the next concert or
Nice.
music festival.
You're talking about the hill thing. Just kept popping in my head. The opposite, which is, have any of you guys watched? It's a British thing primarily, I believe. It's the cheese rolls.
Yes. Oh, I see. I've watched it many times over, but I love watching it every year.
For those of you who don't know what the cheese roll is they get a giant, like 5 to 20 pound roll of cheese wrapped in wax, you know, and they go up, and there's differing degrees of difficulty based on the hills that they're using. So they have to make sure that the angle of the hill isn't going to kill somebody if they, I mean, I can't walk in a straight line in a flat surface, but in most cases for people, like, there are a lot of injuries that occur in these, but they start to roll the cheese down the hill, and a bunch of people will run. And if you can successfully run down to the bottom of the hill without tripping and flipping yourself over and breaking an ankle or your neck, and you're the first one at the bottom of the hill, you win the cheese. And they have like ratings on how difficult of the hill is going to be, kind of like skiing does, you know, like, oh, this is a slope for beginners and stuff. So if you ever want some fun, look up cheese rolling and just watch all of these people who've been excited at the festival or whatever that's going on behind it, and then they all get a little tipsy and decide to run down and try to race a roll of cheese down a hill and a bunch of other people. It's something that you're going to be like, wow, people can, and it's been going on since like the fucking Middle Ages or something like that. Like it was something that started and they just never stopped. It was like never like, you know, a lot of people get hurt. This might be a bad idea. It was like, fuck it. They get hurt on roller coasters too. Let's do it. You know?
I think the YouTuber Aussie Man actually did a commentary video on that cheese rolling event. He's quite good at colorful commentary.
I'll have to watch it. I do enjoy a good cheese roll. I learned about them from Terry Pratchett in the Tiffany Aching books, and then I was like, is this real? Because Terry will fuck with you. Sir Terry was very good at putting in things that sound very much like facts, and they are in fact mocking you. Like he does some good stuff on drop bears. I was absolutely convinced that a treacle mine existed, because in Alice in Wonderland, there was the girl who lived in the bottom of the treacle well. And then he gives this whole explanation about, like, there was a treacle mine. And what happened was, the way that you get a treacle mine is sugarcane and such that used to grow in huge fields here. And then, you know, like there was some sort of destructive event and it got covered up and heat from the earth and everything, blah, blah, blah. So prehistoric sugarcane that got squished together turns into treacle. And they would have like little chips of it that the miners would throw off to kids that they could suck on as candy. And this whole elaborate thing. And I was trying to convince my mom about that treacle mines were real. And then I felt like a damn fool because treacle mines are not real, no matter how well they are explained to you. It was a great elaborate joke. But I
So
still
you're-
think they should be real.
Your cheese is typically about a 7 to 9 pound, and they actually have a pretty amazing detail of what kind of cheese they're going to roll.
Oh, yes.
It's not just
you don't
a-
want to just win a roll of cheddar, you know.
Oh no, this is a special type of sharp, I do believe, and I think it's hilarious because there's not just 5 people, there's not 10, there's some of these competitions, there's almost 100 or above 100 people rolling down this hill trying to get this cheese. And I'll tell you what, I like cheese. I like cheese a lot. No one likes cheese as much as my wife. I sent her to the bank and someone said something about cheese and she totally forgot what she was doing. Told her I said pick up some 10s and some 20s and maybe some 50s, but I need $500. And she goes, okay, no problem. Gets back and she goes, somebody talked to me about cheese and I have 5 $100 bills. I said, you forgot. And she goes, they were talking about cheese. And I never understood how much my wife likes cheese until somebody was talking about cheese and she lost all track of thought and didn't pick up the right stuff.
Well, it
Cheese
makes
is
sense.
Gouda.
There was a commercial back in the 80s that
Cheese is
said the
Gouda.
old power of cheese.
Right. Old commercial. Boy, that brings back
Behold
some bad
power of
memories.
cheese.
My mom, after having seen the little sign, can no longer sing "Sweet Dreams" without being "Sweet dreams are made of cheese. Who am I
Sweet
to
creams
disagree?"
are made of cheese. Who am I to disagree?
Yeah,
That'd be perfect for my wife. Sweet dreams are made of cheese.
Sweet creams are made of cheese.
Oh, I only saw the dreams. I hadn't seen the creams, but that's even better.
Yep.
Sweet creams are made of cheese. Who am I to disagree?
To disagree.
Oh, I will tell you something else about this wonderful concert. My favorite shirt
Yes.
was a menu from Waffle House that someone had printed, and it gave everything. And I took a picture of this guy's back as I was on the sound platform, and I'm watching for people squirting squirt guns towards the sound equipment. And here's this guy with a Waffle House shirt, and I took a picture, and I said, please tell me we can get this for Christmas, because I want this so I can wear it to my sister. She hates Waffle House. There was
it the old menu or the new menu? Because their menu has changed. They've scaled back on a lot of items.
Well, actually, it's the traditional menu that you see nowadays.
Okay.
But they have the full menu. If you guys ever go to Waffle House and ask for the full menu, it's not colorful or anything like that, but it's a whole list. There it is. Oh my gosh,
Nice.
I forgot I sent it to you guys. There is the Waffle House one. It doesn't have the prices, I don't think. You might. But yeah,
Very
I just thought that
location.
was I just really thought that was awesome that there was that, and there's a campsite that I was really intrigued by because one car was made into a trailer pulled by the exact same make and model of a car. And the funniest thing is they were using that trailer car as their camping unit. It was like a Saturn Nissan or something like that, which was pulling a Saturn Nissan. Oh, yep. There.
Have you guys seen the new I think it's the new Tesla that looks like a tank?
Yeah.
It's all like
That truck,
straight.
Cybertruck.
Yeah, it's weird.
Oh,
It's there's one in my mom's neighborhood, so she's seen it like 3 or 4 times, and she hates it. She's like, it's ugly. It's just terrible looking, but it's a thing now,
Mhm.
Everybody. Although I don't know how long they are, but I'm just saying, if you're one of those people who goes out and buys an extended cab pickup that then has like 8 wheels on it because you need to have that extended trunk as well, you should very much park at the far back of a parking lot and never in a street side parking, because people cannot see around you. They also cannot drive in the lane that they are supposed to. And maybe this is a Nebraska thing because it never seems like it's a farmer that's driving one of those. It seems like it's a younger kid who's driving one of those, and they don't know how to park them and they don't know how to drive them. And it's like you if you don't
Overcompensating.
fit in this spot, then you shouldn't be able to park there. There should, there's special slots for compact cars and for motorcycle drivers. Perhaps they should have special slots for, if you're driving a fucking semi that's not called a semi, you should park it here. Because then other people can actually drive down the street.
I do want to also point out, because you're bringing this up.
Yes.
This is a country festival. It's been around for many, many years. And at no point have I ever seen a squatted truck at this music festival. And this year still didn't see a squatted truck. So whoever put it in someone's head that squatting your truck is to show how country you are, you're an idiot. Have you ever seen a squatted truck?
I have no idea what a
Don't even know what
squatted
that
truck
is.
is.
So a
Yeah.
squatted truck
The
is
opposite of a truck
when
with big
you
monster
have
tires with the-
a extension put on the front, but not on the back. So the truck actually goes like this as it drives. It's
Your
actually
truck-
very dangerous, and someone told me that it is becoming illegal in Florida for you to have a squatted truck because the visibility is impaired highly.
Well, that makes sense. Okay, I'm gonna
just being honest. If you're country, usually you're like a farmer or something like that. I'm not saying that all country people are on a farm, but I am saying that you use your trucks for work and hauling stuff and this and that. So having a squatted truck is one of the most backwards ways that I've ever seen somebody try to have.
Well, that sounds like you're putting smaller wheels on the back and then maybe extended rods on the front with bigger wheels to raise the front end up and keep the back end low.
It's all the same wheels. It's just they raise the front up.
Let me see if I can.
I've seen it in photos, seen it in videos. People, me and a couple other people were talking about this, and we were talking about it this year at the concert, that we have never seen a squatted truck, and we're kind of glad, because we would be very fearful of somebody having a squatted truck and having visibility problems with all the
you can't see past the hood in front of you.
Yeah, with all the emaciated people walking around.
Okay, I'm trying to pull up a picture, but all of them are. Okay, here we go. They're all with a. Where did it go? I just saved it. We need to go back up. Oh, there we go. Sorry guys, I'm trying to put things on and all of them are the wrong they're .webp and I can't save those and then put them up. So this would be a squatted truck. Kind of
Yeah,
bad
that's what I meant.
pixelation, but there you go. Well, that's just stupid. Of course you can't see anything with that. Were I to see that, I would be like, you know what? I bet that's not street legal. And I bet
I'm
you're an
sure-
asshole. There was a guy in Fremont who drove around, and I don't mean to be insulting by this, but this guy kind of deserved it. He was an exceptionally large man who got a Toyota, like the little one's enough, but then did the lowrider thing with it.
Mhm.
And I mean, when it was normal size, if he crawled into it, it would become a lowrider. But he turned it into a lowrider and like put the lights and shit underneath that were like in some areas scraping against the, it was bad. But he made, this is back in the days before CDs, he made cassette tapes that were nothing but the song Lowrider on repeat through the whole thing. So he could put it in his tape deck, and when it would roll over, it would keep playing. And he would drive, we had a square. It was like 2 highways and some major streets that,
Right.
and so you would cruise the square, or you would sit in one of the big parking lots and wait for your friends to pull in and hang out and then cruise for a little bit and go back and forth. And whether he was driving or not, he would play Lowrider. So yes, that truck is ugly. I agree. But yeah, lowriders, I never understood the point of them, because it has to be like damaging to your vehicle to have everything so close to the ground, so that if you go over, like Lincoln is full of potholes, man, you could drown in some of them that are outside of my apartment building. But if you go through some of them, like, how does it keep your car from not just, oh, there went my muffler, oh shit, that was the oil?
Don't go over any speed bumps.
So I know a person that he actually takes trucks and he actually low rides them, but he puts air systems on it. That way he can raise them up and then he can drop them down. One of the problems to this is that he actually puts spark bars on the back. And this has been
Explain
years
what
ago.
a spark bar is, please.
Okay, so a spark bar is a piece of metal that you put on the frame. So when it goes down, it can actually spark against the actual pavement. And as you're going down the road, you're leaving a trail of sparks. Well,
And that's legal?
it is not legal now.
Okay.
In our county, that got it wasn't thought of. Someone did it, and now it's illegal because they lost a spark bar off their truck, and it went into a field, and they taped the fire department pulling up to this field while playing "We Didn't Start the Fire."
Bad taste, people.
And then they posted it online. Well, the investigator for the whole thing found out that, hey, this person posted it, this and that. They had a couple of things. They found something, and yes, it was a spark bar. He was charged for, the whole incident.
Good.
Well, after he got charged with it, they passed a law in the county that you can't have spark bars. And if you were caught using a spark bar, then you would be charged for it. But some car shows, it's okay to have a spark bar because it's on private property and it's more controlled. These guys were going out in the country, dropping it down low as they could to hit them spark bars to create these spark trails.
I mean, okay, I get that technology sometimes, like, you don't have a law against something that doesn't exist until it exists and you find out about it and discover that it well, that was stupid. Common sense would have told you that this is not something you should do. But since it didn't, now we have to make a law against it.
Right.
Like,
And that's unfortunately, laws don't exist until something happens.
and it makes bad laws come into effect too. Like,
Right.
you get it if you wear a mask in most states, if you commit a crime while wearing a mask, that's an extra charge. So people, I mean, like, I get it. You walk in wearing a mask and rob a bank, you know, that's shitty. But it makes, in some cases, wearing a mask in public can get you like stopped and questioned legally. Because, you know, so like around Halloween or haunters and stuff like that, you can get like, oh, you're a suspect because you're acting suspicious because you're hiding your features, you're covering everything, you're trying to be unnoticed or unidentifiable, you know. So, and like car modifications, you know, most of them aren't that silly, but like there's a little fucking go-kart guy who lives up on my mother's side of town who has like this little tiny, it's like the one wheel in front, two in back go-kart with a cage built around it so that he doesn't totally die. But on the cage, he has built a swirl of like the lights that I have here, the little that give me seizures, so I can't use them anymore, but like LED lights that swirl around, and he has them flashing in tune with the music that he has two giant speakers mounted to the back of that thing. So he's like driving down the street in a non-street legal vehicle, usually hangs out in parking lots, but he still has to drive the streets to get there, and then like pumping music and flashing lights constantly. And I made a post on Reddit once where I was like, so this is basically a seizure mobile, you know, for those of us down there, like, oh yeah, oh, I know that guy. Yeah, he loves doing it. He just loves fucking with people. He's kind of an asshole. And I'm like, he's a major asshole. Is that legal? No, he's gotten in trouble for it before, but they never did anything other than warn him. Like, he's gotten 500 warnings and they never actually, there's like, oh, that's cute, but it's wrong. You know, but it's like, dude, people are going to die when he's going through intersections and they're like, what is this thing that's 2.5 feet tall flashing lights at me, not being seen? Or if being seen, like it's not something you should normally be used to in traffic. I don't know. Just a me thing. That and having the different colored headlights that shine in strange colors. I'm not sure how I feel about those because sometimes those can mess with people's vision as well, depending on color blindness and things.
Yeah.
I think we need to standardize most things. And yeah, you want to stand out, but you know, get some detailing done or something, you know, get a little bit of extra work on your car if you want it. Don't like injure people because you want your car to be cool.
There's a guy over in England that he will find laws that are like really, really old laws, and he will do the illegal activity to see if the law enforcement will do anything about it. I mean, these are super old laws. Like Sydney's got a law that you cannot on a Sunday tie your horse up to the city fountain. Only on a Sunday. Ohio also has the law that you are not allowed to go whaling on Sunday. Which I don't know where the heck you're going to find a whale.
There's one in Lincoln, Nebraska that I have often wanted to. I would only do it with like one because that would be enough of an effort, maybe 2 or 3 if I had friends. But it is against the law to drive more than 60 head of cattle down O Street, which is our main drive through the entire city. You go down O Street. Like, it was actually Jack Kerouac when he referred to Zero Street. He was staying in Lincoln and that was O Street or whatever. And I don't really give a shit about Jack Kerouac, but I should, but I read his stuff at the wrong age where I was like, well, this is just patronizing bullshit. But yeah, so I think like, okay, if you took 59 cattle though, you could drive that down O Street and all they can say is, well, shit. I
Yep.
mean, I'm sure you'd probably get cited for any property destruction that they did or whatever, but they have to like block things off for you because you're like, I'm under 60. I've got less than 60, so you got to do this.
Sydney's got a law.
Yes, if I had friends.
Sydney's got a law that it is a gang activity if it's more than 5 people in a group. So what happened one time was a group of us that was 4 and another group that was 3 just happened to see each other and start talking. We didn't know nothing about this, and a law enforcement officer told us. So we split apart. But one person went over to the 4 to make a 5, and the officer was talking. So we asked him if he was considered part of our gang because he is now that odd number that pushed it over the envelope. And the officer said, no, because I'm investigating. I said, you weren't investigating until that other person came over. So now, because you were talking about something else, you already told us what was going on. He walked over. You're still here. Now you're talking about something else. Is that gang activity? He told us.
So Dolores Umbridge
go home.
makes the laws. No more than 3 people can be together at once.
When I was in college, they enacted a law for the campus to try to keep people from carrying deadly weapons on campus. And one of the laws that they enacted, but that you were not allowed to carry knives on campus. And at the time, this is rural North Carolina and the mountains. So it was pretty common for guys to carry a pocket knife or, something like that, And even myself, I used to carry a pocket knife as well. They're incredibly handy tools. But, they made a rule stating that you were no longer allowed to carry knives on campus. And I was talking to another student about this, and I said, well, what do they consider a knife? What is their definition of using a knife? And at the time, the language stated that anything that was at least 4 inches and used for penetration. And I said, great. So that means my dick is a deadly weapon. I'm not allowed to have it on campus anymore.
This is a knife.
Crikey, that's not a knife. That's a spoon. I see you played knifey spoony before.
It's like, wait a minute, that's not a knife.
I'll tell you.
I mean, I get those where you're like, no, because you on camp because of all the campus things, But I'm with you. When I was in high school, we played with butterfly knives on the bus because it was fun and you could show off all your tricks. And then we had people would bring we were country kids. This was the early 90s. My school literally had cows on one side and corn on the other 3. We went down to a guy's pond to do our biology segment on water that I can't remember what the actual term for it is right now, but to study creatures in the water and get things. But I mean, people had gun racks in their cars. They would bring rifles and shotguns and stuff up to school because they were hunters, and it was easier than putting their guns out, putting their guns back,
Right.
So it just happened, and nobody shot anybody. Nobody threatened anybody. They'd go in and work on their guns in shop class sometimes, if they needed to repair things. But we didn't have that kind of, like, as much as James and I both had some issues in high school, it was nothing compared to what things are like today. Like,
Right.
there were bullies and shit, but there was nobody who was carrying a gun in school and threatening people. People would, maybe bugger somebody up or shove them up against the locker or something like that. But nobody ever tried to attack somebody with a weapon. They even, one of my friends, whose name I won't mention because he ended up becoming a very successful something else, was making pipe bombs in chemistry class. They just set them off in fields. They weren't using them to, like, it was just like, let's make the biggest firecracker we can. Ta-da, So,
Right.
I don't know.
And that is one of the things
But
that a lot
now,
of people don't understand. Yes, this used to go on. Yes, this and that. I argue all the facts, or I argue all the time that, the more that people understand about stuff is a lot better, because then they're not scared of it. They're educated with it. Accidents don't happen as much, and people don't want to mess with the people that have the knowledge to operate things.
and Friday had something to say on this.
I have not been able to get a word in edgewise, but I
Sorry.
did want to say that it's been a whole entire 2-hour episode, and I've had something to say at each point, and it's like, how do I jump in? But this has been more painful than a knife in most of my school situations. I have been stabbed with more pencils than I have with knives. I still have lead in my wrist from one of them, so the pencil is more dangerous for me than the pocket knives we had in high school. And they would always have one problem. I would look at them with a straight face and say, your point, or that was my seat, now move.
Oh, I
And
thought your
they
point
would
was a
never
joke.
understand why I never went.
Well, go ahead and get out the
I
rest of the stuff that you were going to say from
yes,
the previous points.
Yes, go ahead. I'll shut up.
jump back. Wait,
Jump back. Okay. Sex ed. My mom died. The school's way of teaching sucked. So my dad would give me dirty magazines, the comic books that would explain and show how things were done in a funny way. And that's how I learned how it worked. And as an adult, talking about how bad sex ed in school, we had so many teenage pregnancies in Madisonville, Texas, that my old bus driver had decided, you know what, I'm gonna help with this along if you guys would let me talk to them. And she finally had to explain to them things like peeing after sex does not stop the part where you get pregnant. That is not how that works. And how bad it is that parents aren't wanting to at least explain the common things like why you need pads, what to do when you get your period, what to do with the male problem with the erections at odd times. I've already had to start early with my kids because my daughter started early with her period, like I did. So we had to start early in explaining how the body works. And why nobody actually wanted to have those conversations boggles my mind as a parent and as a person. That is why you have all these unplanned things happen, because you don't even have the common sense talk, like why you shouldn't eat a handful of cinnamon, why you shouldn't eat Tide Pods, why you should not open a can of biscuits with a can opener, why you should not go run away in the snow in just shorts and a t-shirt.
Go back real quick. People try to open up cans of
Which
biscuits with a can opener.
there was this viral video where this lady was opening up cans of biscuits and cans of cinnamon rolls, saying it never comes out like it does in the picture because of how I take it out of the can. So that enacted a let's have a lesson about reading directions and cooking.
I am both exceptionally happy and exceptionally sad for the state of common sense in the world today that you get to give lessons to your children early about it because of live examples of grown-ass adults not knowing what in the fuck they are doing, so that you can take your young ones aside and be like, this is called critical thinking or critical reasoning. I took a college class in that, and you would be amazed at the simplicity of these topics that we covered, because even in my day and age, the instructor realized that people don't get shit, you know, but it's gone beyond that to now. Like, but you do a great job. By the way, guys, Friday, if you've caught any of the other episodes of this, is amazing at explaining things. And Raz usually puts her on the spot with a random sex ed question in almost every episode. And she's really good at it. You can learn things from us beyond us just bullshitting as well. Like, she will give you great lessons. And I'm going to let you go back. I had to pause you on the biscuit thing because I was like, oh, well, Stefan has a question.
Okay, there was another viral trend, like the part where they were eating Tide Pods. They were also doing handfuls of cinnamon. And on top of all the stupid things, like that much cinnamon can kill you. Breathing in powder can kill you unless it's done in a specific way, like in an inhaler. The powder from the inhalers, like the albuterol or whatever inhalers you have to help with your asthma, is done in a different way. So, yeah, we had to talk about that and how her inhaler was different than whatever that is. And as I can't remember the rest of it, but it's like a few things where I'm like, why are you just not teaching? And why are you like not being more, for lack of a better word, caring in your teaching instead of just like whole bunch of people in one room? Why can't you do like some of the good teachers and just take them to the side and explain?
Yeah, there's definitely an argument, I think, to be said for, like I said, I wasn't offered a critical reasoning class until I was in college. I graduated in 1993, but having that in elementary schools would be exceptionally, or what do they call, what, I don't know what they call grade schools, elementary schools now, because there's like something
Same
and then
thing.
middle school and then, okay, but just common fucking sense is not encouraged in a world where children are raised with TikTok and YouTubers, and it needs to be.
So, the maker of Mickey Mouse Clubhouse, I know it's a kid for tiny people, but they actually did try to teach children how to use what they have. Think outside the box and use what they have to fix the situation. Find a solution. Think through solutions for the problems. Sometimes you have a pair of coveralls and you can use that as a flag. Sometimes you need to get off the top of your house. Use a giant straw. It's a think outside the box. Look at everything you have around you and use what you have to fix the situation. And that's one of the greatest gifts I think that I've seen any show do. And just have them figure out how to think. And that doesn't happen often in the shows.
As my as Mads had said when she was about 5 or 6 watching Dora the Explorer in front of me, when she pulled up the map to be like, do you see where the next place we go on the map is? We get from Mads, it's in the upper right-hand corner, Dora. It's always in the upper goddamned right-hand corner. Are you fucking stupid? And that was... I love Dora the Explorer, but she's not so much on common sense either.
My daughter
No.
was getting tested for kindergarten, and she's smart. She's so smart, but she plays dumb, because if she can get away with it, she'll let someone else do it. That is smart. But when you're trying to do the kindergarten testing, you're supposed to show what you know. So when the person goes, do you know how to spell your name? And she goes, yes. And they said, well, can you spell it? And she goes, R. And he goes, okay. And she looked at him and goes, A. And he goes, okay. And then she goes, and he goes, okay. And she looked at him like, haha, I got away with it. You're a dumbass. You don't know how to spell my name. What shape do you need? Can you do a square? And she goes and she makes a circle and smiles at him. And he goes, okay. And she's like, haha, I got away with it. And then I looked at her. I said, Raven, spell your name. She spells it. I want to see a square. Show me with your fingers. She makes a square. Make a circle. She makes a circle. And he goes, she's smart. She just don't like showing you because she think you dumb.
She's probably right.
When I was going into kindergarten, like I said, I ended up getting moved up and a lot of behind the scenes shit, but I tested into the junior high level, but they were like, we aren't going to put a 5-year-old in junior high because that's just way too much social fuck ups. And this was back in, like 1981, 1982, something like that. This was before Doogie Howser was a thing. And I probably wouldn't have thrived very well if I was like, that itty bitty kid in the big kids classes. But they sent me home with a note because I was doing fine. I was doing the kindergarten during the day, first grade after lunch, because kindergarten went home, they only had a half day. And I didn't know how to skip because I read books. I didn't play. I never really played with other kids. And they were like, she doesn't know how to skip. So my mom had to sit there and teach me how to skip, and she was just flabbergasted because she was like, how does a child not know how to skip? And I'm like, when in the fuck would I have ever skipped? What would drive me to skip as I sit in my corner reading my books and do things, I have no idea where you're coming from there, Stefan. And I'm stealing a story from somebody else, but Brandon, one of the Dorkening members, was in trouble because he was his family is very Irish, and his sister's name was, I always pronounce this wrong and I'm very sorry. It's like Siobhan is what it is, but it's like Siobhan or something. Is it something similar to that? Is a spelling for it? And they were like, oh, okay, Doogie Howser. But they were like, can you spell your sister's name? And he said yes. And they didn't recognize the spelling, so they were like, well, you're wrong. And they punished him for an entire day. And then when his parents came to pick him up, they were like, your son doesn't even know how to spell his sister's name. And we had to give him all these stuff. And they were like, that's exactly how her fucking name is spelled. Leave my son alone. So, teachers don't always get it right.
No.
They need to realize, and I think today it would be slightly different because There's so many goddamn ways to spell every single name out there, and so many new creative names that have come out. I mean, well, like I'm a Carrie, and I worked with 5 other Carries, and we were all spelled. Well, 4 other Carries. We were all spelled a different way, you know. But like Mads went to school. She played volleyball, and there was a girl on her team, and I love it. Her name was Curiosity, spelt with a Q at the beginning, and they all just called her Q. But like that was a really cool name. The little girl named Tequila, that was one of my old neighbors. I kind of worried about her because I don't think you'd name your kid like vodka, or like you'd be like your name, like Jack for Jack Daniels or something, but just straight up like Tequila. That's how you were conceived, child. Tequila. I'm sorry, I'm making fun of people named Tequila. No offense meant. It just, the name confused me. So
My problem is when it comes to naming, I am so used to people adding a weird ending or a weird suffix that weird to me because it's all odd. And I move, and not all people are doing that in all areas. So I asked if they had an idea of how people come up with this idea. And they basically said, that's not normal. And I'm like, that's normal for my area. Because it wasn't just the black people, it was the black people, the white people. I've heard more hillbillies with weird endings to their name than any other race, white, black, Latino, whatever. So yeah, learning about names is hard.
And looks like Pyle needs to sign off.
I'm going to jump off here, but I just want to say it's always a pleasure being on here with you guys. Hopefully my schedule gets a little less chaotic, and we do have Chainer's Haunted Secrets coming up this Friday. So we will have you guys come play with me on my show. So
and
you guys
who do we have
a
on?
Wonderful Gravedigger. We have Gravedigger.
Awesome.
We'll have him for an hour, and then after that, we're going to talk about acting.
Nice.
So you guys all have yourself a wonderful one, and thank you. Bye, guys.
Thanks for coming, babe. Bye.
I will probably follow him out in the next 10 minutes or so, since it's almost 11.
It is?
It's almost 11.
Yeah, I forgot you're an hour ahead of me.
All you Ohioans.
Mm-hmm.
The rest of us are like in a normal time zone.
Especially us that have to get up early for work.
Yeah, I don't do that. I just...
My 4:30 is your 5:30. That's the thing. We're still doing 4:30 here, but it's like an hour difference.
See, Stefan's in a normal time zone too. We're like, everything we advertise is on Eastern time because we're used to advertising Eastern time for people. But half of us are in a third of us are in Central time, maybe something like that. I don't know.
I am.
I have fun differentiating between Eastern Daylight Time and Eastern Standard Savings Time because nobody else does, but I do. Currently, it is daylight time, so it's EDT instead of EST.
Lemon Jello, orange Jello.
Back in the old days of TV, network TV, when you only had 3 channels, they would have to advertise television shows to come on at certain times. So they would say like 9 p.m., 8 Central. Because they broadcast over, multiple time zones. And I don't know if they do that much anymore, if they say that much anymore, since everything is digital television guide now that it, automatically updates whatever your time zone is. But, I think that's how we learned, the different time zones. Eastern, Central, Mountain, and Pacific.
Yeah, there's ABC, CBS, and NBC. And then
Mhm.
if you had the U one, you could get the like 42 or whatever it was. It was, oh, and I forgot about public broadcast, PBC. So,
PBS. Yeah, public broadcasting channels.
oh, that's what it was. Yeah,
Yeah.
that's where all the
No,
kids' things came up.
and I mean, that's what we
Yeah.
had before we actually got the satellite dish, and then that was a game changer.
I spent most of my life without cable. So, and like when I did, it'd be like for a short period of time. So I'd like get into a show and then I wouldn't have cable. And so then it was just like, well, that show's over. I'll never see it again. And now we have streaming services. And I'm like, well, I said I'd never see it again. Do I actually want to see it again? Now that there are all these other options open to me, should I see how that ended up or not?
When like back in the early 80s, when the satellite dish first came out, there was very few satellites at the time. The satellites that you had was, I think, Telstar, which was T1, T2, T3, and T4. And then I think Geostar, maybe, which was G1, G2, G3, and G4. And then I don't remember. There was another one. It was F1, F2, and F3, but I don't remember what the F was for. And I could be completely mistaken about the Telstar and the Geostar, but those were the main satellites that were out there that broadcast your HBO, your Cinemax, your Showtime, your movie channel, and everything else. So, like F3, you would put it on one and it would show the movie in Eastern time zone. And then if you wanted to watch it again 3 hours later, you could switch it over to a different channel because it was on Pacific time zone, and you could watch the same movie 3 hours later because it was showing from Pacific time zone.
Oh, that's cool. I didn't know you could do that.
Yeah,
I never
that
had a
was
satellite, so I never.
way back in the day. And then, of course, they realized they could start charging for these movies, and they started scrambling the channels. And you had to buy a descrambler as a separate piece of equipment in order to get basically the same movies that you had been watching. And that way they could put everything behind a paywall. You had to pay for the subscription to use the descrambler. When it first came out, of course, there was no paywall for the descrambler. You just bought the descrambler and then it unscrambled everything and you got your movies. But then they wised up and they put all of that where you had to pay subscriptions. But around that time was the same time that home cable started becoming more prominent, more mainstream, and it was a hell of a lot cheaper than satellites. Because you just have your cable company come out, install the equipment, and then you get your cable television, and you got access to all the same channels that you had. But by that time, they had already figured out to put all of your premium channels behind paywalls. So you still had to pay for your HBO and your Cinemax and Showtime and all of that stuff. But
You know what
yeah,
they do that's terrible now? They sign up certain sports teams to only appear on specific cable networks.
yeah,
So,
that wouldn't surprise me. They get an exclusive right to them.
yeah. So, like, my mother is everybody knows this. My mother is addicted to Hawaiian college men's volleyball. She loves it. She loves their teams, but you can only get it on Spectrum because they signed a thing with Spectrum. So, um, that one of the family members is trying to figure out if they can get it on ESPN or not, because Spectrum, when you get them, you have to get you get the whole package, but it's not very good, at least in this area. You tend to have a lot of problems with it, and it's like you spend more time buffering than you do watching things or being
Yeah.
able to use your internet. But it's the only way that she can, at 3 o'clock in the morning, access her Hawaiian men's volleyball. So she's just sticking with it.
I'm on Spectrum here, but I'm also in a large metropolitan area, so the coverage is pretty good. The problem with that is they almost have a monopoly in this area because a lot of the smaller companies, they can't compete with Spectrum being as large as it is.
I've tried them here, and my apartment is set up. I am on Windstream DSL right now because of the way that my apartment is laid out and where the cables need to run. It's the only one I can plug into, like, right over there. They're coming here tomorrow. Right over in my corner behind my entertainment system, there is a wall plug-in for my phone, for a phone line, which is, what you use for DSL. And the cable line plugs in directly in this wall, which would require to have cables going across the floor where everybody walks in order to plug into anything so that I can have like connectivity. And I've tried Spectrum, and they were a cable thing. And even though I had to run cables everywhere, I gave it a shot and I ran it at the same time on different, like I'd have one thing connected to Spectrum and one thing connected to Windstream, and see who was dropping more frequently and who would pick it up So I might have been getting a lot of drops with Windstream, but they would come back up quicker. And like Spectrum, I would just be like, I would have complete outage for like 5 hours. Whereas with Windstream, it would be like sometimes a couple seconds, sometimes if I had to reboot the modem, like 5 minutes or something. But
After
I don't have,
after
I
go ahead.
don't have fiber in the building, so I can't get
Mm.
Allo. I tried the T-Mobile thing where they give you, I set my little box in the window and they're supposed to bounce off of the satellites next to you. And there's only a certain amount of people allowed per area so that they don't overstress the thing. All I got from from T-Mobile, it didn't work. I always kept Windstream running this whole time, but I would hook it up. It worked for like a day, and then it went down. And then my modem, a router thing, for some reason kept giving me all of these Snapchat updates. I'm not on Snapchat, so I have no idea why it wouldn't like put it through my computer, but on the actual box, it was like, you have 32 Snapchat updates. And I'm like, I don't have Snapchat. So I don't know what's going on there. So I had to return that to them. I can't get Verizon wireless. I can't get these other things. So I'm stuck with DSL until I move. And it's Windstream, and they're like the only place in town that still does it. And so I have like, sorry guys when I lag, but it's the best that I can possibly do because it's the only thing that actually functions here. But it sucks to be stuck in a smaller town because all of these companies are competing, but most of them are asking for things bigger than my building will allow. And I don't hold it against my landlord to be like, I don't want to spend the money to get one apartment building that has like 4 apartments rented out of it updated so that they can get, new shit going. So
After I graduated college, I got a job working PC tech support for a particular company, and their building was located way out in the boonies, surrounded by mostly cow fields and not much else. It was probably a good at least 12 miles to the closest town, the closest shopping center. But there was an apartment complex right across the street from the building where I worked. And because I don't drive, that was the only place available to me to live. Of course, that meant that there were also other people that worked there that lived in that same apartment complex, but I didn't know who they were and never met them. But it was easy for me to walk back and forth to work every day. So this company that I worked for, they had high-speed internet lines running into the building in order for us to do our jobs. And it's a call center. So you got multiple phone lines and just, constant influx of calls. And we have to have high-speed internet. And they're using this big, massive, server farm system and everything for their database and blah, 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 and so on and so forth. So I get high-speed internet at work, and then I go across the street to my apartment and I can't get anything. I had a 56K modem. They didn't even have cable television in the area yet. So I had to use Dish Network. and I had a little satellite dish. Because I was living in an apartment complex, you weren't allowed to mount anything outside your
Ugh.
apartment or on your apartment. So I had a satellite dish mounted on a cinder block that when I wanted to watch TV, I just put the cinder block right outside my apartment so that I could pick up the satellite dish. And then when I was done, I'd have to bring it back in so people wouldn't steal my damn satellite dish. And that was the best I could get. And every time it rained, satellite went out. I couldn't get a signal. So
Nice.
I didn't spend a
Well,
whole heck of a lot of time watching TV back then because I couldn't get cable television and all I had was my little dish. So I kept calling around to see, okay, when are we going to get high speed internet here? When are we going to get cable internet? When are we going to get, and DSL didn't cover it. Cable internet didn't cover it. The closest I could get was an ISDN line, which I don't know if you're familiar with what ISDN
no.
is. Integrated synchronized dual network lines, I believe is what it stands for. And basically it's two phone lines that work in tandem with each other so that when your phone is not in use, then both lines will work conjunctively to double your speed. But that also means that you are still able to pick up your phone and make a phone call without getting kicked off the internet, because then it will just, buffer back down to one line. The problem is that it costs twice as much as cable internet or DSL, because they have to come in and install the equipment, and then you have to get an ISDN modem and specialized equipment in order to do that. So I went from like a 57 or 56K modem to like 128K. And that was the fastest I could get, when most cable internet at the time was probably around 300K. A little bit faster than the regular, but that was the best I could do. So, that's what I got. And the irony was not lost on me that across the street, I had a building with ultra high speed, super high tech internet. And then in my little apartment, the best I could do was two phone lines. And it pissed me off so much because it's just like, it's over there. Just bring that line over here. It's like, why didn't the apartment complex make a deal with the building across the street and say, hey, can we use some of your internet bandwidth for our people that are living here? And it's such a, anyway, those were the old days.
I'm wondering if that's okay. So with mine, okay, like I said, it's DSL, but I have to pay for having a landline. I have a landline number. I've never used it except to log in to that account to pay things or to file a complaint. But I do get two options on my login. It's that I'm not going to give out my information, of course, but it's like this number 1 or this number 2. So is that what I have basically?
Well,
Because it'll like default
subscriber
from one to the
line is
other
a
or
little bit
something.
different because what it's actually doing is regular phone back in the old days was still mostly analog bandwidth and worked at a certain frequency. But then they would basically piggyback a digital signal across those same lines, which digital works at a higher frequency. So as long as the wiring was there, they could pump both in at the same time, and then your DSL modem would separate what's on the analog frequencies versus what's on the digital frequencies.
Okay, because they told me like I would have these speeds, and it was like, well, you do have those speeds if you combine the speeds of both of the different numbers that you have that pull up. And I'm like, but I can only be on one at a time. So that means I get half the speed because this one, because I have to choose this one or this one. And it's supposed to be like, oh, if this one drops, then this one's up. And it's like, no, if they drop, they both drop. So I can only be on one at a time, And another big thing, guys, for those of you who are not aware or who have to deal with a certain low bandwidth on your modems, don't give your password out to anybody ever. When I had to go through, I'd had some issues with some extra people having my passwords and some homeless folks staying here. And when I changed my password, I looked up and I had 13 people connected to my internet when I was the only one in my home. Now, okay, my Echo Dot was one of them, my laptop was one of them, and my phone was one of them. The rest of them were all different people that were hanging out either in the laundry room, the alley, or somewhere within the reach of my Wi-Fi, just using my bandwidth.
Yep.
So, yeah, that it's
Put a
important.
password on your network.
Yep, you gotta. Unfortunately, when it constantly resets, you have to keep resetting that password. So eventually, like, it's just like, fuck it. I'll use the thing on the moon and I'll quit doing it. But I had a lot of fun coming up with like fucky passwords for a while. But, you know, get tired of that.
Yeah, it
It's
hasn't
too
been so
much
much of an
work.
issue around here because I mean I can look up like all of the Wi-Fi that are in this area, but they're all secure. You know, they all have the little lock icon on them and show that you need a password for them. So, you know, people aren't
I need
bad
another
about it around here.
I need another educational moment. If one of you two knows. So if my internet just goes out, and I'm reading something on, say, a fan fiction site, something like that, I will pull up on my phone my little hotspot. Do hotspots go by time that they are open or the amount of data that is used while they're open? Like if I just open one page, do I need to turn it off after I open that page and then wait and turn it back on to go to the next page or not? Or because apparently me using it like one night wiped out most of the Wi-Fi that we had for the month, or hotspot time or whatever that we had for the month. And I didn't realize that just reading something stationary could do something like that.
That's entirely up to your service provider. I pay for unlimited data through T-Mobile.
Mm-hmm.
And I've had it for a while, so it's never been an issue for me. Plus, because I'm also in a metropolitan area, there's plenty of public Wi-Fi around here that's pretty easy to access. I'm almost never in an area where I don't have some kind of a connection to something. And there's very few areas around Ohio actually that I don't get service. And even those that do, it's usually very temporary, and I can go without my phone for that long. But when I don't have Wi-Fi signal, that's why I have the unlimited data, so that
See, I don't phone.
I don't run out of it. You know,
I can't. I hate to do things on my phone other than text people, maybe take a picture or talk to things. Like if I'm doing Facebook, it's on the laptop. I keep my phone attached so that if I'm texting somebody, I'm on my laptop doing it. The smallness of the screen really bothers me. So like I can use my Kindle because I mean like I just had it. It was annoying me because it was so big. Oh, this is my Kindle. I can actually read and see things on that. I don't watch movies on it because it's still once again too small, but I need to see things.
yeah. Well, I mean,
I
it
probably
depends on your
boggle your
service provider. Hotspot is going to use a lot of data. And they will probably throttle your bandwidth so that you won't be able to transmit or receive as fast as you would on regular Wi-Fi. So, in my opinion, hotspots have been kind of hit or miss, and I've never really seen many good ones unless you're paying out the nose for it.
Yeah, I got used to having the unlimited one during COVID because Verizon gave it to everybody for free. They were just like, okay, things are messed up. We're going to just give this as a benefit to everybody so that if you're having problems catching up with bills and doing things, you just have it, you know? And then it went away and I wasn't aware of it. And then I got a note like, we do a family plan so that we all just pay my mom for what we get, you know, so we have just like this blanket phone. Because when you do that, you know, it's like you pay the main amount and then you pay like $20 each per person rather than having an entire new account under your name. But it was one of those, are you using all the hotspot? Because it's all gone now. And I was like, oh, I was used to us having unlimited. And all I actually used it for was to read some stuff on a stationary site where I just needed it to load up the next chapter every now and then. So I didn't realize I was using data that much doing it. But
Well,
Jenny, you had something.
probably some stuff in the background that it was loading as well that you probably didn't even know about.
Oh, that's something good too. I forget that they always have the processes happening to update and do all that.
All right, what do you got,
Jenny, how are you going to blow our mind? You said you were going to blow our minds.
No, I probably will blow yours. This won't mess with most people's head. I run everything Owlite on my phone. Except for like this. I can't do this on my phone. But I can make the shorter videos. I can transfer the videos from one YouTube to another. I can make all the posts. I can schedule everything on my phone.
And you choose to do so willingly?
It's easier than my laptop. I have a tiny person.
Okay. My mom can phone like my mom can phone 5,000 times better than I can, and she can also dual screen, which I have no idea how to do because I've never had a second screen. But then when she asks me something, I'm like, I have no idea, because it's like, how do you do this? And I'm like, I do it on my laptop. Let me show you how. And she's like, I don't want it on my laptop. I have it on my phone. And I'm like, I don't have it on my phone. I put it on my laptop, you know? So I don't understand the phone mentality.
On a phone. I can type a lot faster than I can text on a phone.
Oh, and I've tried doing the slidey thing, and I end up with the most bizarre words ever.
Exactly.
I'm like, what? Although we do have, this is a fun one. Mom likes to do speech to text at times. And even this is kind of morbid, it is really fun. Mom's speech to text end up being hilarious often. And one of the things that she wants after she passes at her celebration of life is to have us kids put together a big board with pictures like about, like this big or so of screenshots of the various texts that we received from her over the years. So we're all saving all of the really good texts. Like, I think my favorite one, and forgive the fact that this is inappropriate, but it was an accidental speech to text. She was talking to my sister, and Mom does this thing after she retired, but before she went back to work, and still kind of sometimes. She's retired twice now, and then she's currently working again because she gets bored, so she just goes and picks up another job. But she does Granny Dash, and like we bought her like heat and cool containers and like all these different things. So she'll make, like, she has styrofoam containers and the metal containers so you can put like a pasta thing in and stick it in the oven, and salad containers and dressing containers and glasses and things and all the different stuff, and like personalized stickers with the menus and everything. So she does Granny Dash, and she will make meals for everybody and drop them off to each household over the weekends and stuff. And it's really super fun. And she was talking to my sister about like, okay, so I made some crusty French bread to dip in the beef bourguignon that I'm making. Would you like to have some to go with it to dip in the juices? But it came across as I made some crusty French bread to dip in the beef abortion. Would you like to have some to dip in the juices?
Yes, please.
And there was like, no, thank you. I don't really think we need that dish delivered to us. And there was another time she did something on Christmas where it was like, she was saying 6 or something, but it was like, if you guys would like to come over at this time, we'll be having the sex thing going on and stuff. And Mom's like, and this is just like, I think we'll skip the sex part because it's family, but we will show up for the gift giving part. And but,
It keeps on
so we have all
man.
these. Her phone is great, and I'm gonna do this, and we just have fun with it. So I love, for her, it's depressing to talk to your parents about this, but it's something you have to do. And Mom wants, for her celebration of life, to have a taco truck outside, and because she loves food trucks and she loves tacos, so she's just like, I want a taco truck outside. I want you kids to put up this. She wants the song she wants played is by Disturbed. It's Hold On to Memories, which is a very poignant, very good song and stuff. But she's just like, she's got it all planned out, and it's depressing to talk about. But at the same time, it's like Mom has some really fun, not depressing things that she wants because she really wants it to be a celebration. So that's the happy part about talking about everything with her, you know? So it's like, okay, so all the different flubs and stuff that's gone there, and everybody gets free tacos to hang out and celebrate karma. So,
I like it.
what's not to like? You get karma and you get karma flubs, and you get to celebrate a really, really, really awesome moment. I just hope that it doesn't happen for another at least 20 years, you know? If we go by genetics, she's got quite some time. So
I would hope that my parents don't pass until after I retire from work so that I can spend more time with them.
that was something that I was blessed by with my grandparents, is that, Mom was working, but she had built a house. Well, she was in the middle of getting a house built for them to stay with her that had their room next to a bathroom next to the main area with all wood floors. When something occurred with my grandmother to where she was hospitalized and they had to move in with her. So for a month or two, it was kind of awkward trying to fit everybody into the house that she had. But then we all moved into her new, well, I had my apartment, but they had their place, and I stayed on the couch and stayed with them and stuff. And I got to spend like a decade, a little over for Papa, a little under for Grandma, but spending time with my grandparents, which is something a lot of people don't get to do, is spend every day and get all the and Grandma, like, instead of having memes, Grandma always got all the magazines that had the like little jokes and stuff in them. And I got her like Grandma's Dirty Joke book, and she loved it. But she'd cut out all the little ads and the little inside jokes. And so instead of having like Grandma had a Facebook with memes, I'd show up and she'd be like, look what I found. And she'd be like handing me these little scraps of paper that were basically like her version of memes and stuff. And Pop would sit out on the back porch, and he couldn't remember what he had for breakfast, but he could remember everything that happened in the past. And so he'd be telling us stories about like, well, there was this one time when I was driving the girls, his sisters, into town to work. We got stalled out on the train tracks driving the such and such car. And we look and we're like, you're not going to say that. He's like, and a train came by and rammed into the car. We had to get out, of course. And we're like, you got hit by a train. Well, yeah. And so they bought us a newer car, but it weren't no better. And, but I got to learn all of that and spend all that time. And I'm glad, because I now, even though she keeps going back to goddamn work, got to spend a lot of that time with my mom as well, so it's good to be able to get that time when you can.
I never knew my grandparents.
I'm sorry.
Both my paternal grandparents died before I was born, and my maternal grandfather died the day before, or a couple days before my 7th birthday, and then my grandmother died almost a year after that. So I never knew him.
I've been very fortunate in that I lost my last grandparent last year. So, or this past year. So I was able to grow up and spend weekends or weeks with them over the summer, and I consider myself to be very lucky because I had some amazing inspiration, and all from different sides. Like my father's grandparents were farmers, but my grandma, before she married Papa, was a model, and it was so fun because every time she'd be like, she wasn't like really materialistic or anything, but her way of describing people would be like, "Oh, look at him. You know, you're that nephew of mine, he's so good looking, isn't he? He's just a good looking guy." And that's how she really liked to express things. And then other Papa and Grandma, like he went through the war, and then he traveled around working on barges and things. So he'd spend a lot of time out of town, and sometimes she'd go down with him and work the books or do different stuff. And they'd have like one of the ladies attached to some of the men that would go down, do some work, and also kind of do the cooking and stuff, so that the guys weren't always out wasting their money on food. But Papa would drive up from like Texas to Nebraska to catch my uncle's football game and then go back to work the next day. And so I had some really respectful, hardworking influences in my life that I'm really happy that I got to have.
So Friday's sitting there with this quizzical look on her face. I think she's probably still trying to figure out my comment with lemon jello and orange jello.
No,
you don't-
what
I will
went through
suggest
my
that.
mind is a whole nother book.
What?
What's that?
I don't know if you've ever read The Man from Dark County, and at the beginning of the book, he finds the main character finds that the person was turned into this green goo, and he's standing there thinking, does he taste like lime jello?
Mm.
My friend Sam tried to convince me that lime jello was the only substance that could be put through a phone line, and that if you shoved it hard enough into your phone, it would actually make it to the other person. I never actually tried it. I didn't believe him, but he tried really, really hard to convince me that lime jello could be passed through the phone.
I don't think that's a thing.
My grandmother wished it could.
So when I was in high school, in one of my creative writing classes, with Mrs. Nance, whom I gave a shout out to in the foreword of my book, we were talking about interesting names where she had met two students whose names were spelled lemon jello and orange jello, but they were not pronounced lemon jello and orange jello. It was lemangelo and orangelo. Now, if you introduce yourself as lemangelo and orangelo, you think, okay, well, these are exotic sounding names, and it doesn't cross your mind until you actually see how they are spelled. Now, I always thought that maybe this was just an urban legend, a myth, that I couldn't possibly imagine somebody naming their children Lemangelo and Orangelo and spelling them lemon jello and orange jello until I actually met them. They were identical twin brothers, and they happened to come to my university for summer school, one summer school session. And they were in my dorm because that's where everybody stayed for summer school. And I'm passing through the hallway and I see the names on the door, lemon jello and orange jello. And I went, oh. So I had the opportunity to actually meet Lamangelo and Orangelo, and I already knew how their names were pronounced. But to everybody else, it was, it was different.
My mother went to school, and this is something that proof by high school yearbooks. It actually happened. I know this isn't one of those little made up things, but she went to school with, and I think the parents should be punished, Rosie and Harry Butts.
And their brother
Yes.
Seymour.
But it was just like, really? You're gonna name your kid that? Did you think at all, like the father, at least, who had the last name to begin with, had to go like, I was on a playground once. I remember that, and he probably got made fun of just for his last name in general, but adding to it is just.
There used to be a NASCAR driver whose name was Dick Trickle.
I've always thought that Dick Butsky was Dick Butkus. That's what it is. I got it back.
Yeah,
Dick Butkus. Yeah. Sorry. No, I thought I did really good because I was initially going to name mine Anaya Sky, and then I said it fast, and it sounds like a nice guy, and so I was like, well, that's kind of weird. That could be taken out of context, and so I went with Madeline Fury, and actually the same friend who told me about the lime jello thing said, like, so is her nickname Pissed Off because she's mad and furious? And I was like, fuck you. It's better than a nice guy.
Mad Fury.
Mad Fury.
Sounds like a Road Warrior movie.
I thought like Fury would be a cool middle name to, and she used it in sports sometimes. She had like Fury, and they were like, yeah, Fury. But mostly her name was Peanut, which is what we now call the dog. So it's kind of a reverse Indiana Jones thing. So
right.
Everybody would be like, oh, Peanut. Yeah. Now we have like, this is Peanut. She is a little 8-pound dog that runs around like mad. So
we call the dog Indy.
I love that. That was just like, they're like, what? Oh, speaking of which, little thing, did you notice that, okay, they have the new Captain America movie coming out with Harrison Ford playing the guy. He's going to be the fucking Red Hulk. Like, there are set shots with him. It absolutely, I'm not completely confirming this because I've only heard the things where it's like, if you watch the very end of the trailer, which if you are photosensitive, by the way, and you watch the new Captain America trailer, be prepared because for some reason, they feel the need to keep flashing in white text over and over and over the date that it's being released. So it's not like they're using special effects. They're just like, this is the movie, da, 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 white strobe going at you over and over. Yeah. But the very last like second and a half shows the bottom ragged leg of a Hulk pants, like torn up from changing, and a red leg going down. And then they have the red hand over the shield now, which is not to size. It is an exaggeration. But from set shots, they have shown Harrison Ford himself having a red leg and the torn pants, which might mean that he is actually doing the like mocap or whatever thing for or mocap, I'm sorry, mocap for the Red Hulk, or it could just be a scene showing him after he transforms back, although I suppose his leg wouldn't be red then. But in either case, I mean, like, I'm pretty sure that I love Harrison Ford, but I don't think that he's bulky enough to have his own leg be like Hulk sized. But yeah, so Harrison Ford is going to be playing a character that turns into the Red Hulk in the new Captain America movie. If you're at all interested whatsoever. But Harrison Ford has had one hell of a comeback lately. They're like, everything you ever did, we're going to make a sequel of. Ta-da! go be it. Oh, you're going to die in the first scene of this one, but you get to last for a while longer in this one. And we're going to make a brand new character for you this one. And I think that I personally say that he got this role because he's good at being a leader. Like he's good at playing a role that is like a president or a general or somebody in charge of an expedition or something. So I think they might have, and this is a completely different spelling, but euthanized him a little bit. They made him younger looking. If that, I don't know what you actually call that, but they younganized him. Oh, thank you. That's a good word. They de-aged him enough that he's still kind of got that like gruff Harrison Ford thing going on. But yeah, so Red Hulk coming at you.
Well, they
I'm
kind
not
of did
sure
the
how I
same
feel about
thing
it.
with Chris Evans in the first Captain America movie when they had him as the scrawny Steve Rogers. You know, that's all CG as well to make him appear frail and smaller than he actually is. And you know, my
Yeah,
whole thing about the original Captain America movie with Chris Evans is, you know, he goes into uh, the cylinder, the chamber, you know, as the 98-pound weakling. And then of course they inject him with the super serum and all of that, and he grows and he comes out and he's like 6'4" and full of muscle and wearing the same pants.
they were latex. They just didn't tell you.
They must have been. I don't know how he went from like, you
It-
know, a size, you know, 28 waist to a size 36, you know, or whatever. And the pants didn't split or rip or anything, you know. Okay.
This is why they need us to like go through and just nitpick the films. Those of us who are writers and especially like you, martial artist and stuff. There's something I'm going to be sending to you, by the way, that is martial arts related. It's a comic book thing. Can't remember off the top of my head what it is, but this person is rattling off like, "Oh, I might be skinny and unarmed, but I know." And I was going to double check with you on some of the different martial arts references that they used, because some of it I believe is something that you practice. So you might be able to tell me whether they're being honest or not. But
Right.
yeah, the super serum is crazy because they made it once and then they fucked it up like 300 times after that. But everybody they injected had different weird ass side effects.
Right.
And like some were great, some were horrible. And it very much interests me on like, okay, they had Super Soldier, they had Captain America, he did great. And then they got Wolverine and Wade Wilson at the same time with basically the same thing, only Wolvie was already a mutant, so he had the extra, stuff going on. And they've just recently started releasing a couple of the other mutagens. I guess it would be like I think it's Weapon 8 they recently brought up in Spider-Man Across the Spider-Verse. It was like a 4-issue miniseries that came out, and he's like a spidered version of stuff, but it's like he's been hinted at for forever, and then he's on like 6 pages, and you're like, well, that was great. Okay, thanks. Always wondered what happened. Are we going to get the other 300? Like some of them are just like little piles of goop that are like, oh, kill me, please, kill me. Do you taste like lime jello? I'm just wondering before we kill you. Sorry.
Okay,
I tried to
look in
explain.
here. Men from Dark
Yeah.
County by Insolvent. Please go read, and you too can wonder if he tastes like lime jello.
I want to have like, I think like, okay, it's there's so many anniversaries. It's like I think Deadpool's 60th, or not Deadpool, Daredevil's 60th, Wolverine's 50th. Every anniversary is happening this year, like decade-ish anniversaries are happening this year. But and we have all these crossovers, like the Blood Hunt shit is just like, ta-da, we decided to throw some vampires at you and cross over the entire universe so that everybody has to interrupt their storyline to allow for either vampires or the lack of sun because the Darkhold has taken over it, or both, into their storylines. And now they're also doing a Beetlejuice variant cover, but not a comic. Yeah, dead air right now because all of these
Confusing.
comics are going to have you can just go ahead. The one that's going to be neat is apparently they're doing a Batman one with Michael Keaton's Batman as it with Beetlejuice, which cute tie-in, but come on, guys, really?
There's a theory going around that I've heard. I don't know if there's any truth to it, but it wouldn't surprise me that the chemical that caused Matt Murdock to go blind and gave him his daredevil senses was the same chemical that spilled and caused the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles to mutate.
Really?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so this year's Terrificon, which I am attending, August 16th through the 18th, I'll be with Splash Pages there, is focused on Daredevil because it's the 60th anniversary of Daredevil. And one of the people who is writing for it that I am trying to get an interview with specifically is Jason Aaron's, who is writing a new Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles series this year. So I will make sure that is on the list of questions to ask him.
Yeah,
because as he's involved with, yeah, I thank you for that because I've been trying to come up with fun questions and stuff for people. So I will make sure that I add that to my list of questions to ask Jason Aaron's.
Yeah, I always thought that was kind of interesting.
I
mean, they do exist in the same Marvel universe. I mean, of course, now the Marvel universe is split into so many different multi-dimensions. And what are we, like Earth 686 or something like that?
616.
616, yeah. I mean, so it's entirely possible that the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles do not exist on the same Earth realm as Matt Murdock as Daredevil, but I think that that's a possibility that they do exist, and one could lead to the other. Because the chemical was from an overturned truck or something, and Matt Murdock got sprayed with it, and of course that ooze that has to go somewhere, and it's going to seep into the sewer drains, and that's what caused the turtles to mutate.
We also have an expert over on the Dorkening, Justin Cooper, who is all about the turtles. So I'll be sure to present that to him as a question as well to see if he happens to know that, because I had not heard about that before. But I mean, it wouldn't make sense giving it didn't make them go blind, but they're turtles, so they became something different. It enhanced them in certain ways. Now, and here's something, because like I said, I'm not a turtle expert. Did Splinter evolve the same way, or was he already an old man Yoda ninja rat?
I don't think that
or was it Splinter? What was their sensei's name?
The rat, the Splinter. Okay. Yeah. Splinter was their teacher, and Shredder was the bad guy.
Okay.
I think so, because I mean, Splinter was a sewer rat first, so he probably came into contact with the chemical before the turtles did.
Okay. Why doesn't Matt Murdock eat more pizza? The world wants to know. Because he lives in Hell's Kitchen, and they don't do pizza in Hell's Kitchen. No, they do flat pizza in Hell's Kitchen. Sorry. I've been all over the place. I'm doing special gifts for specific guests at Terrificon this year, including like custom-made items that I'm not going to go all off on. But if you happen to need coasters made that are personalized and you don't want to spend $3,000 or $300 or get like a bag of them, I just discovered today that Walgreens Photoshop will make you custom coasters by the 12 pack for like under $15. So if you happen to be looking for custom made stuff, go to Walgreens.
I would think you'd want Matt Murdock to eat your pizza because he'd be the perfect person to do a blind taste test.
Bravo, sir. Bravo. You got that one. I can't figure. I try to keep up. You know, you do your best, and then the problem that's going to be going on is that I'm not a huge fan of Daredevil. I don't have anything against him. I just haven't deep dived into the Daredevil stuff before. You know, I've read him here and there, and I really enjoy what I've read of him. But who I would say my favorite Daredevil artist is or Daredevil writer is, because he's one of my favorite writers out there, and we've had him on the show before, is DG Dan Chichester. And I love Dan Chichester's stuff. And he got invited to a different con before he got invited to Terrificon. So he's going to be the only person basically involved in Daredevil that isn't going to be at the con. And I'm like super sad because Jenny, you've met him. He's just a wonderful guy.
Yes, he is awesome.
He did a lot of Hellraiser stuff. He did a lot of horror stuff. He did the Black Armor. And there were people who were like totally trashing him, like, oh, the Daredevil Black Armor was the worst comic of Daredevil ever. And so we have the worst writer coming back and doing the worst comic ever. And it was just like, dude, did you read it? It was solid. It hit hard. It was amazing. And I'm so glad that they did, because he had a really low self-esteem going on for a little bit about that. You know, it was like when people just call you shit just for the fuck of it, it's just like, people are horrible.
I was happy he answered all my weird little questions.
Yeah, he's just an amazing guy, and he did a great job with the new Daredevil Black Armor miniseries. It really rocked the house, and so he proved it. But I don't get to see him this year because he's going to be going to a different con. I think he's actually going to be in Texas, so y'all can go and check him out and be like, hey, she wanted to ask you these questions, but she's in Connecticut. So if you happen to have time, I don't know.
It's not that I don't have time, it's that I don't have money.
And I'm not in Connecticut.
Well, no, I'm going to be in Connecticut. He's going to be in Texas.
Oh.
I think. Maybe New Mexico. I'm not positive. But I thought he was in San Antonio. I could be terribly wrong. I'll get you a press pass, maybe. We'll try it out.
Decent place there to go to a con.
I won't be at either one of them.
Okay, no fun. Well, we are going on 3 hours here. We totally swindled Ron into staying for an extra hour. But he's like, I gotta go. But this, you're going to talk about it.
Exactly. And it'd be very easy to continue doing that for the rest of the night. Especially if you start talking comics and stuff. My knowledge doesn't really trend past the late 80s and early 90s as far as comics go, other than what they have in the movies. But I mean, you guys know more about comics than I do because I haven't been reading them since I was a kid.
I'll start sending them to you constantly.
But you know, I
Which
have knowledge in
she-
many other areas.
she's the one to talk about comics with. I know very niche comics that I am reading.
I'm learning many more comics, but mine are still niche. They're just a lot of niche. I've got the horror comics down, and some of the I guess I'd call them gen eds if you're going to school for them. You know, like the basic
Yeah.
X-Men, the basic Marvel, the basic DC, the basic this. But then I go off and I'm like, ooh, I'm going to read all of this person's stuff, and it goes really far out there. And so I'm like, I'm going to ask you a question about this comic, and they're like, you're the only person who ever read that. So I'm like, yes.
Well, when I started collecting comics were only 75 cents at the time. And then when they would have special issues, that might be $1. Or if they were a double issue or, you know, particularly printed and colorful and, you know, and all of that, they might be about 25. But they were rarely ever more than that. And I started collecting comics from the 7th grade, basically on up through the time I was a senior in high school. But you know, back then I got an allowance, or I started working, and you know, I had a little bit of money that I could buy comics with because I didn't have any other bills or responsibilities or stuff like that. But at some point, they started coming out with all these graphic novels, or the printing process started getting more advanced. The comics started costing more, and it outgrew my allowance, and I just never had the money to buy comics anymore. So I fell out of it. You know, once I started college and I started taking on bills, because you know, then you got to pay rent if you got an apartment, and you have to pay your phone bill, you got to pay your electric bill and all of that. It's just like I didn't really have the money to spend on comics anymore, so I sort of fell out of it and never really got back into it.
Yeah. I fell out of it for about 20 years. I would read what I could and hold on to what I had, but it's an extra expenditure that you really have to budget for. When I was in high school, I was working at a restaurant, and so I'd like start picking up extra shifts if there was a crossover event, because it was like, well, shit, that means that every couple weeks or whatever the cycle was for each one that was coming out, I need to buy this, and this instead of just this, so that I know what's going on in everything else. And now the thing is the variant covers. And like my current LCS local comic book shop, unless it's a very specific book that a lot of people have shown interest in multiple covers for, they won't order any variant covers. They just go for the original cover, get the book for everybody's asked for it. If you have asked for something that's not an incentive cover, which for those of you who, like I had to learn what it is, if you want an incentive cover, it'll be like 1 in 25, 1 in 50, 1 in 100. You have to order that many of the basic comic to open up that cover to be sent to your store. So somebody in Lincoln, Nebraska isn't going to be buying the 1 in 100 incentive cover. You're going to have to go ahead and buy that off of eBay or some really big comic book company somewhere else. Your local comic book shop is going to be able to get you the basic variants and stuff like that. But variant covers have become so popular that we have a section of it on splash pages, but we aren't showing you all the variant. Yeah, we do variant watch, but we are not showing you nearly all of the variant covers. There will be sometimes like almost 150 variant covers done in like a week or two. It's we don't have time to show them to you. It's ridiculous. But if there's like a specific cover that we want to focus on the artist or the cause for, we will show it to you. The rest of it you can look up online.
It makes the comics have that much more value if you have multiple issues of the variant covers, like the same issue with different variant covers.
Yeah, because some of them, like Leo has, I can't remember which X-Men it is. It's one of the ones that has a connecting cover. But
Yeah.
in order to make the whole picture, you have to have like 6, I think 6 or 8, however many it is across, and then 2 up. But
Oh
he
yeah.
has like 41 issues of the same comic number in different covers.
Yeah,
And it's
they did that
silly.
with the official handbook of the Marvel Universe series. If you ever look those up, and the official handbook of the Marvel Universe is basically just each character name with their name, their alias, height, weight, their stats, base of operations, and then a brief history and their list of superpowers, their strength level, and the issues that they were shown in at that time.
Mhm.
So it's kind of like an encyclopedia of their litany of heroes and villains. And they had official handbook of the Marvel Universe for their current roster of heroes at the time, and then of course they had same thing for the villain side. And they also had official handbook of the Marvel Universe for people that were deceased within the Marvel Universe. And these were characters that they most likely probably would not be bringing back. But you know how it is nowadays. Pretty much anybody is fair game. They'll figure out a way to bring it back if
Yeah.
they want to. But all of the covers of the official handbook of the Marvel Universe were connected, and in order, it was just one long, just gigantic picture that ran from cover to cover to cover to cover to cover to cover, and you just connected them all into one giant poster of that showed all of the people in those particular issues, and it was very cool that the way that they did it. And I don't know how many volumes that they put out of the official handbook of the Marvel Universe, or if they're even around. I still have my copies
Mhm.
of the ones that I bought when they were first published, and I think the ones that I have are probably volume 2. I think that they actually did one even before the volume that I got. So I don't know
Mhm.
if they still do that now, but I always wanted to try to get a full set from A to Z just so I can have all of the connecting covers.
Yeah, and what what I appreciate is when, and I know the Sandman did this, and I'm not I'm not too invested in as many other comics, but I'm hoping that most of them do this where they release like these are all of the covers in a volume, like a trade paperback. And if it's something like a connective cover, have a fold out type of thing so that you can have the poster and have them detachable if you want or whatever. Because if you're going to go through and buy each of those comics so that you can have every cover, like most from these days are going to cost you between $4 to $5 a piece. And if they're incentive covers and stuff like that, they're automatically going to jump to between like sometimes $10 to $50 a piece, and some of them even more, depending on who did the cover and how rare it is to get. And there are comic book shops that will specifically have made just for them an incentive cover as well of some sort. So it's just like you can spend like hundreds of dollars getting one comic. It's all the same on the inside. It's just different on the cover.
Do you
And that's
remember
just
Chris
silly.
Claremont?
Oh, yes. Chris Claremont is still around, still talking, still doing his thing. If you would like to know anything about the X-Men, please talk to Chris Claremont.
He actually published 2 books. I mean, he might have more than that now, but I only remember the 2 that he
Okay.
published around the time that he was still doing X-Men. And the first one was called First Flight, and then the second one was a sequel to that called Grounded. And I wasn't sure if you were aware of those particular books.
Are they prose or are they comics?
They're fiction. They're science fiction books.
Okay, so it's
Novels.
not a comic.
They're novels.
Okay. Oh, rock
Yeah,
on.
they're novels.
Cool.
Yeah.
No, I didn't know about that. That's something I'll have to grab actually then. Because
Yeah, I mean, they've been out for a while, but they're really good stories. And they're very well written.
oh,
So,
he's an excellent creator. Yeah, he has a great mind. I always try to find that, and it's very rare, like that you can actually find the prose of somebody who's known for comics, because everywhere you go pushes the comic so much that you don't get to find, like you have to really look hard to find anybody who's written comics and prose, and to find their prose or fiction, nonfiction, whatever it is, but non-comic books.
Yeah. So check those out. First Flight and Grounded.
Okay,
And
definitely.
I don't know if he's written anything else since then, but I know those 2 books because I bought them.
Well, he'll be at Terrificon too, so if we see him, I'll see if I can run in and ask him a couple questions about that book. I
Yeah.
don't know. He's going to be one of those people who the line goes around the
yeah.
auditorium for. But part of the reason that is because Chris is not only a gifted writer, he is a gifted speaker, and he very much enjoys speaking personally with each of his fans. And so if you like come up and say, "Hey, could you autograph this for me?" He'll be like, "Yes. Let me tell you the story behind what happened when I was writing this." And 20 minutes later, you'll have a signed comic, and you'll have a line behind you going, "Chris, I want mine signed." And then he'll go into the next one, and they'll be like, "I have these 5. Here's something." And he'll be like, "Well, let me tell you." So
I can imagine that Chris Claremont is probably very much comic celebrity at this point in his
yes.
career. Yeah.
One of the best things I got to see last year on the on the panels was when they got him and Walt and Weezy Simonson all on a show together to have like what it was like with comics way back in the day, everybody working together and how they helped each other and interacted with each other and stuff. And Mitch, who runs the Terrificon, had come up and they'd like set up to give him an award, and they went up and gave him the award, and then it was supposed to like, okay, after he accepts the award, we're going to roll into the next panel. And they gave it to him, and then it prompted Chris to tell a story. And so he starts telling the story, and because it's Chris, it's a very long story. And I'm not saying anything bad. I love your stories, Chris Claremont. You love it. But they were on a time schedule. And so you just sit there and watch as like people are like patting their knees and waiting, because it's like the next panel is supposed to have started 5 minutes ago. It was supposed to be give you the award, and everybody says thank you and then leaves the stage, and you're telling a story. And I have people waiting. It was rather cute.
Yeah,
I mean, he
that
didn't
can
go
be.
off for half an hour, I think, but it was one of those like, wrap it up. Come on. This was supposed to be an award and gone. But it's super fun.
Dude,
Go ahead, Jamie.
You guys had Todd Habercorn on for one of the panels. And the thing I didn't know, because I've just been listening to him on anime, listening for read me books or whatever, he is like the most talkative person there. He had a question for each person that had a question for them.
So what do you like about this? What about you? I'm trying to figure out how to pitch myself to some of these people, because like I said, I'm buying, like I'm totally trying to bribe my way into questions from people. I'm like, I know that you collect this specific thing, so I'm buying something that I think that will entice you a little bit, yet at the same time, when I hand it to you, I'm going to be like, now I would love to have an interview with you, and I know that you like this, this, and this, so I got them for you. This is by no means trying to say like you have to agree to an interview to accept these things, but I would really love it if you would. It'll be like 5 minutes, and this would be what I'd be asking you about. So, and I've been.
Sometimes it works.
And if it doesn't, I still want them to know that like I pay attention to them, and that I know the different things that they like, and that I want them to have a good time while they're there.
Mm-hmm.
So
it helped knowing his live action things when it came to dang it, Bo Why did I forget his name right off the top of my head? Bo Billingsley.
Not sure.
He's
I know who that
anime.
is.
Like, you don't? Okay. No Cowboy Bebop.
I
No video game.
oh yeah. Okay. I do subs, not dubs, so I don't know most of the anime voices because they're all dubs. But
I don't really watch anime, so I wouldn't know.
I'm
That
really
is
hoping to get Andrew Robinson this year from Hellraiser. And I'm gonna bring my cube so I can see if he can like solve it for me while I'm on screen and just be like, get it started a little bit for him, be like, ooh, can you just do this for me? But at the same time, like, he's been in so many things that are not Hellraiser, like Star Trek and all this stuff. And I'm like, I don't know shit about your career except for Hellraiser because I kind of paid attention to that stuff, but not nearly as much. So I have to like, if you guys have any questions that you can come up with that are like, dude, I really want to know what Andrew Robinson felt about this. Like, I would appreciate having other questions besides, so Hellraiser, let's talk.
I
What
got
was it
nothing.
like? Well, I mean, think about it. Look.
Research.
Now I have my box salt. I'm gonna have some problems.
We have such sights to show. He might throw that cube.
Dude, this one is hefty. So if he does, he's gonna give somebody a concussion. Because seriously, like this is a good couple pounds. It feels like it weighs as much as my mom's dog does. I know it doesn't because it's smaller, and it's condensed. But I can't unsolve it now. I hate that. Like, what did I do? What did I do wrong? It's stuck. Anyway, so 3 hours.
And 6 minutes and counting.
And counting. There was this great radio station that started up back when I was like just out of high school. And when it was like doing the countdown, it when the old radio station stopped and it was transferring over ownership, they did this thing where they played It's the End of the World as We Know It by REM for 24 hours straight. And then they started doing this thing for like a week solid where it was like, it will be 6 days, 24 hours, 7 minutes, 35 seconds, and counting. And then they would say a phrase. And then they would go back into the countdown. And like, I memorized all of the various phrases that they had because I had like, Volvos, they're boxy, but they're good. And I could figure out how many seconds each one of them took. And like my friend, his dad, like he was my ex, but we were at that point just friends. But me and his dad were obsessed with listening to it for the entire like 24 hours or the entire week of 24-hour countdowns. And so we would like have it playing and like I'd go over to visit and he'd have it in the house and I'd have it in the car. And so I'd hop out. And when I'd get inside, like I would wait until it was going to be one of the longer phrases. And so I'd hop in and I'd be able to catch up and we would just sit there and like stare at the radio and count down and recite the phrases with them. And then it just ended up being like a basic, like it was the new rock at the time, like the metal station and it was metal and industrial and alternative. And that was really cool at the time because there hadn't been one of those before. It was like replacing like a pop music sort of station. But I seriously spent a week memorizing the length of time it took to say certain stock phrases so that I could count down for a radio station. the only time I've ever heard of it, and I really want to figure out who did it, how they did it, and if anybody else like happened to have recorded it, so I can just have that to play in the background sometime for a week, just cause.
Goals. Hashtag goals.
Good story, Del. That's great. We are so happy that we now know that you had no life at all, even back then.
I should
Yeah.
go to bed.
All right. I think the rest of us should maybe too.
The Wrath of Ron.
Run!
So, where do you want people to find you, Ron?
I don't really want people to find me, at least not currently. They're just a distraction, and I'm already procrastinating all of the stuff I have to do anyway. So, as much as I would like to be sociable and continue procrastinating, is probably better if people don't find me. But yet here I am. If you absolutely positively must communicate with me, then you can find me on Facebook under my author page, Ronald W Gillespie Jr. author, and you can also occasionally find me on TikTok procrastinating all of the work that I should be doing, and under @Wolf Dojo, and otherwise just talk to Jenny up here, and she'll hoard all of your messages until a later date when I say it's finally okay to send them to me, and maybe I'll read them and maybe I won't, and you won't know until you
I'm
receive a
not going to
response.
hoard anything. I will
And
send
if
you a
you look-
screenshot and say,
It's just
And if you see
been-
behind his head, you can order his book, which I just read this week, and I can tell you is goddamn good and very much worth the read and purchase of. So
yes.
go get it. Go read it. You know what else he's in? Oh, goodness.
There.
The Elliott Menagerie,
Yes,
which is a
and
book
I
that
quite like the
contains.
story. Yeah,
Yes,
I quite
Elliott
like the story
Menagerie?
I submitted for that one.
it is a great collection of stories from yours all here and some others at the OLI Network, as well as some friends of our shows who are some great published authors. And money going for the first year of all purchases. Everything is going to Pro Literacy, a wonderful charity that promotes adult literacy. So read
And-
both.
And Fae Propaganda. I have a short story in that one as well.
I don't have a picture for that.
Oh.
But yes.
And I have submitted a
deleted it
story
too.
for our fall release for Nightmare Whispers.
Ooh. Yes, keep up with Fakor.
Yeah. I really like the story that I wrote for that I submitted for the one coming out in the fall. I really want to find out what people's thoughts will be on that one, what their opinion of that story is. They say, "What's your favorite story?" And it's like the one that I just wrote. Doesn't matter which one I just wrote. It's always the one I just wrote.
Mine isn't, but
Like right now, I can't necessarily say it's the novel that I'm working on because this thing is kicking my ass. But I'm sure that once I finally finish it and I have that big sigh of relief that it's finally done and I can move on to other projects, then I'll say, okay, yeah, this is the best, my favorite thing that I've written. And I don't even know if I'm gonna feel that way about the novel because I've spent so much time on this damn thing already, and I'm only at 27,000 words that I might be burnt out on it by the time I actually finish it. But I hope not, because I like the concept of it, and I think Jenny has read like a very small snippet of it, and even for the part that she's read, I've actually rewritten it, and now it's different than what she originally read. So But I think she knows the concept of the story, so I'm interested to see what she thinks about it.
I'm very excited
can't
for
wait
you
to
writing
see
a
it.
novel.
I have a place to
I've
put it.
knocked out I've
Most
knocked out
likely.
over 60K words in like a week. And then it was like, never mind. And then I have books that I've been working on for like a decade.
I really feel like, for as much as I've written in this story, I'm surprised that it's still only 27,000 words, because I feel like it should be much longer than that already for as much as I put into it. I would like to get it up to at least 50 or 60,000 words, but now that I think I'm at the halfway point. I'm not sure if it's going to reach that far, which means that I will have to have a beta reader and somebody to really scrutinize it so that I can uh, expand on it a little bit to make that the 60,000 word mark.
Oh, we got you. We'll get you covered. But next up, I'm going to go next because Jenny takes longer. For me, don't use that name. Look up Carrie, Kari Sanders, Sanders. And if you see this avatar, that would be me. I am judging you. That is how you find Del. And all of my author pages, all of my other stuff, everything is listed there. Everything except for that exact page is pretty much vetted by Jenny. She goes through everything for me and helps me because my social media skills equal 0. So she is the lovely person who handles all of that for me. But I'm also not Morlar. Well, I'm also in the Owlite Menagerie, and we're re-releasing the Morlar from the Mythos with Stefan, who's been in the audience with us tonight. Copy of that gorgeous cover coming out there. That is a Kickstarter that is about to be launched, so go check it out. And you're going to have so much fun because it's a great book. We're relaunching the series and giving you some great illustrations, different cover options. It's awesome. But that's me. Over to she's now State of Mind. Okay. How do we reach you?
I wrote this chaotic book about poetry. Well, not about poetry. Chaotic book of poetry named State of Mind. Please go check it out and see the weird chaos that is my brain. I'm in all the other places. I am pretending to be a lot of people on the network. I am pretending to be Fake Whore and Owlite. And I pretend to be Friday. And I think the hardest one is pretending to be Jennifer Elliott on the author page.
But we love you. And Ratatosker would hug you if he could reach through the he gets cut off. Oh no, he's headless. And Jenny is awesome. She is all of us. We are all Jenny. So good night, everybody. Thank you very much for tuning in, and we will see you next week. Well, we will see you tomorrow as well on Tomb of the Terrible, where we review Sleepaway Camp. Woo!